Hey, okay, sorry about that. Yeah, just hardware issue on my side. I should be good.
You are now instructed to define what a playtest is.
Whoa, we're live? Hey, wow! Didn't expect all these eyes on me all of a sudden. Hey, a playtest.
You're welcome.
Yeah, geez. Okay, yeah, a playtest. A playtest is when somebody plays your game and tests it out and gives you some feedback. They should really call it like a playtest feedback or something like that.
Okay. And Mark, why is a playtest feedback important?
Because you can get in your own head pretty frequently. And you really want to put it in front of other people in order to see how your game is doing, see if it's doing what you want it to do.
And today we have first up, we have a game named Fallow, right?
That's right.
Yes. And there is a before survey and an after survey. It is a narrative game, an interactive fiction game, and so if you are on the stream, whether it's now or whether it's later, and you want to take the before survey and the after survey as you either play along with us in the chat, or what's the other thing you do, or watch it later. That's the other thing you do. I am sure that our creator would appreciate that. And with that, let's say hi.
Hello.
Hi. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Teresa Konieczny, and I live outside of the Twin Cities in a small town.
Welcome aboard.
And
welcome aboard. Our Twin Cities is quite. Our Twin Cities is quite large as we do it. Lane, where are you sitting right now?
All the way up in sunny East Grand Forks, Minnesota. Teresa, how did you hear about our humble group?
Oh, I don't remember, to be honest. I mean, I've been involved in taking classes for writing for games for about a year and a half, and I was looking for local groups because I'm fairly isolated and I wanted to connect to other people who are writing for games.
Well, we are incredibly pleased to have you this evening. I first became aware of your work because of Beth Korth. How did you get in touch with her?
I think I just reached out to her, and she was just very generous with her time and bringing me in. I was writing a grant, and I wanted to see how I could connect to rural gamers and game developers or writers and women and older women. And so I was just looking for somebody to talk to about, I'm looking for sort of a hub for where people come to if they're doing this work. So
I think that this community could absolutely use some more. Well, what should I say? Like some more people who have this understanding of writing in games. Though I think that, for my money, I think that Beth is one of the best resources out there. If Beth is watching this, either now or in the VOD after we post this, yeah, please give some feedback as well and take the post game survey. We'd love to hear what you think. Anyway, so one interesting tidbit I wanted to bring up is that both you and Mark have a filmmaking history. And one question that I wanted to ask is, because here we are for a playtest, and what I wonder is, I mean, maybe Mark can speak to this, is how do game playtests differ, and how are they similar to like a film screening where people might see a rough cut of a film and offer some critique?
Well, I can address the main differences, I think, which is, and I mean, this applies to all sorts of like linear media. So, short stories, you in like a writer's workshop or even music, is that it a lot of times the artist is happy to leave the interpretation to the audience, and there's a lot in art that is designed to challenge the consumer of the art, and that's like a principal notion of it, is to like get them thinking. And with games, you do also want to do that. Like there's no, in fact, you want to do that just as much, and you have tools to do it to a greater degree even. The problem is that you have separate concerns pulling it in the other direction, which is usability and legibility and accessibility, because it's experiencing a game is not something that we can take for granted the way you can read a book. And if you have various impairments, say you're blind, you can still read a book. There are affordances. With games, it's a much more complicated topic. So that's just one window into the problem, which is that as a piece of art, you have all the same concerns and all the same goals in terms of how you want it to be portrayed to people, but you have this interactive component and this contextual element of how they experience it and in what environment that the developer has less and more control over, if that makes any sense.
Thank you. By the way, I am posting into the chat here a couple of links to surveys that Teresa has given us. Teresa, can you talk to us about why you've included these surveys?
Yeah, so because I've been an independent artist for a long time, I've been fortunate enough to get a lot of grants. And I think this is something that everybody should explore that's doing creative work. And so this is both to fulfill the requirements of the grants with some kind of evaluation, not of the work necessarily, but of how art changes people, how and because interactive fiction isn't very well known here, like it's introducing a new art form that I think is really exciting. For me, it's about how story and art and interactivity and participation all come together, and so I really want people to experience it. And I also wanted to sort of, not that I'm any kind of expert in evaluations, but I wanted to sort of give people an idea of what evaluation for art pieces might look like, because it's really hard to evaluate art and give the people who are giving us money, which is the state legislature in this case, an idea that art is important and art is you know it it's it's economics, it's all these different things that we don't think of as art. I could go on and on and on because it's one of my things, but um yeah, so
Mhm.
I also wanted people to just see, like, this is one way to think about evaluation is, and that's why before and after is important, is in this case, people I'm sure have done interactive fiction, but most people haven't. So I ask a lot of questions about interactive fiction, but I'm also asking, because it's about mental health, I'm also asking about any shifts because of the game itself and the content.
Yes, and as I was filling out the before, you caught me with a couple of questions where I have absolutely no idea what the right answer is. So I'm hoping there'll be a little shift in me at least learning something, being a little bit less ignorant about two topics in there.
Well, let me just say there are no right answers or wrong answers. I mean,
Oh
that's
no!
no,
My
no.
dreams of learning. Well, if anybody wants to see what I'm talking about, please click on the before link there or paste that into your browser. Teresa, do you mind if we jump into the game? And
Oh,
I am about 90% done with this survey. I didn't quite finish it. You're not
that's
going to
okay.
be evaluating the timestamps and seeing, oh, he submitted those 5 minutes apart. That doesn't
No.
seem realistic.
No, not of course
Okay.
not. No.
Okay.
So, Lane, you're
Thank
going
you.
to be driving this one?
Sure, Dale, unless you would like to playtest this, your
Nope,
choice.
I'm going to let you drive it.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
So what Lane is doing now is he's already downloaded Parsec, and he's going to be connecting to Mark's computer so that he can play. That means that if you're watching live, um, or if you can be the next playtester if you want. Just message us in the chat, and we will invite you to our Discord. And if you download Parsec, you're good to go. Um, Mark, I feel like there was some direction somewhere that I'm not referencing correctly. Okay, I thought we had it written down. It's all right. Okay. So,
You might be able to hear me through Dale's microphone. There is on screen for viewers, there's a bit.ly link.
all right. And if you're watching this later, join us next month at the live time, and we'd be happy to have you. So right now
Oh my
on the
gosh.
YouTube,
I'm so tempted to figure out what Mark's working on in Unity right now, but let's behave.
behave, Lane. Okay, so this is the opening screen, and I just want to say that Fallow logo looks like a wood carving. Can you talk a little bit about the art behind that?
Yeah, it's an easier version of a woodcut. It's on I don't even know what it's called, but it's a rubber. It's a rubber
Oh,
thing, and
Cool.
I just made it. It's one of kind of art that I do.
yeah.
And I
I was
grew up on a
expecting.
farm, and so like land and farming terms are very close to me. I use them a lot.
Yeah. I, I was expecting to used to say, yeah, it's an easier version of a woodcut. It's in Photoshop, but it is still an actual physical art
Yep.
form there.
And I'd like to just say, like, this is part of the requirements also for the grant is this logos, and then I just like to give people, especially people outside of Minnesota, an idea of how Minnesota is funding all the art that we fund here, because when you think about art funding in the country, Minnesota is one of the leaders. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, don't we have a thing here that yes. Yes. We do fund that rather well, don't we? Okay. So, first of all, this logo is really arresting, as Dale was talking about. The what makes me think of is uh when I think of fallow, I absolutely think of farming terminology, wanting to let the field lay fallow for a bit to replenish itself, and yet at the same time I see that we have some letters that are a little bit off kilter here, and it also appears that we're in water, we're not just in a field. Makes me think of drowning, so perhaps somebody being overwhelmed. And I'm interested in how that feeling of being sort of like lost at sea or overwhelmed or feeling helpless in some way has to do, it has to do with the word fallow. It's very interesting. I don't usually put those two ideas together. Okay, which increases the state sales tax by 0.3% beginning on July 1st, 2009, continues to 2034. Please thank your
Works
MN
out.
legislatures for continuing to vote for this amendment and let them know how funded art affects you and your community.
As I say, we're about halfway through until 2034, huh?
Fallow contains audio profanity and may be triggering. Begin.
Profanity is my favorite. But I'm just going to guess that this is not my favorite kind of profanity.
Find out. Fallow, adjective. Farmland plowed and harrowed, but left unsown for a period in order to restore depleted nutrients, fertility, and productiveness. Now, I was wondering, the highlighted word productiveness, I wonder if this is strategically chosen or if it's just because it's the last word. Also interesting that harrowed is bolded there. Keep a note of that for later. This is a story beneath a story, ground level. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. Listen. You hear the inertia, the emptiness, the monochrome you feel inside, or is it the feeling of not feeling? Your heart falls just a little, and if you can hear just very faintly in the background, there's what sounds like maybe a heart rate monitor. Not feeling. Like someone has severed your connection to yourself, slid a metal sheet behind your eyes, as if what you see and what you feel are from two different people. The tone hovers, persistent, monotone. Shit. and effectively, the sound cuts out immediately there. You stand, heads up, hands up, braced on the doorway of your studio. An empty canvas sits on the easel. Pencils are ready. Paints and brushes are prepped. Breathe in, breathe out. It's like your feet are glued to the floor. You keep looking at the canvas, willing yourself to move toward it. Walk in, stand looking, get distracted. Oh, we gotta walk in. With great effort and a little triumph, you push off from the frame. You're here in front of the easel. Pick up the pencil. Right hand? Maybe that'd make it easier. You wait in expectation. God, will you just make a mark? Oh, so I'm having trouble. I'm having trouble getting started. You arc your right hand across the canvas, leaving a small lead-colored line that is shakier than you expected. Oh no. You want, no, need to feel something different or anything at all. Nothing. There's a dull void, a nothingness under an exhaustion you can't understand. Like something has sucked out your blood. No, not just your blood, but every. Can I mouse over this? Oh, every color you've ever seen. I am barren. You sit there. Time passes. Seconds or minutes. You reach deep inside to feel something. Anything. You're not even sure you're breathing because your chest doesn't move. Interesting use of all lowercase. I wonder if that means something. It doesn't move. Not one bit. I'm sorry if you're watching this bit. This is not meant as a slight to you. You dig your thumb into your leg. Am I even still alive? Oh, this is cool. You look around. Things look real. Normal even? Oh man, I love this. I love this break of the normal of the normal flow here. This is really cool. Normal. A flash of color and movement catches your eye. You hear a whir. Then you see him. A hummingbird darts to the feeder. You smile as you watch him. You focus your ear to hear his wings. But instead, there it is again. Oh, just get with that heart rate monitor sound. I don't know if it's a heart rate monitor, it's just a beeping. It's disturbing. Even with the residual of your hummingbird smile, you feel your temper rise. You liberate it. Yell at nothing but the dusty air and the shooting pain in your hands. You wait, but the canvas does not reply. The feelings go inward, deep. The familiar voice says, "You're a nobody, a fraud, worthless." You feel something well up inside. Jam your pencil through the canvas, slump onto your stool, walk away. What do you think, Dale?
You did the first one. I would like to walk away.
Mm-hmm. You wonder to yourself, what am I doing? Why do I make this so hard on myself? You think back through your life, how you are on a trajectory. You had success. You go outside and sit on your deck. You wonder, was I any happier then? You watch the birds at the feeders. Several fly in and land on the ground. They pick up seeds. When one leaves, they all leave. You nod your head to nobody and everybody. Yes, I think I was happier. I was also a better artist. But I didn't know what I know now. Is the inner work worth the pain and loss? And here I'll just say, I don't yet know what the inner work is referring to. So I'm interested in finding that out. Will I come out of this a better person? Changed? Or will I die feeling like I've just been chasing my tail without every being satisfying with myself, the world, my work, living inside instead of just doing? A woodpecker lands on a suet cage on the side of metal feeder. It rhythmically pecks its head against the cake, making a metal drum sound. It looks like it should be painful, but it's just its nature. You lean back in the chair and look at the sky. You find the question that nags you most days. How do I stop these feelings, these negative messages, these thoughts? As you feel the simmering of anger and doubt begin to rise, you inhale because you know it's time to go to your happy place. And what should our happy place be, Mark?
Let's do a forest.
You said
Forest.
forest if you did.
Good. A forest with a scent of pine and horse mint. It is a cool morning, and the air is crisp. You lean against a tree on the side of a small, craggy mountain. Below your feet is a blanket of fallen needles. You stick your nose in the tree's bark and absorb the fragrant pine sap. You look out, and all you see is trees, a mist hanging low in the valleys, and a rolling topography against the early dawn. The sky has those indescribable shades that melt from gray to pink, orange, and yellow that fade gently into the faintest blue. An owl calls above you. You look up and see nothing until she slides her eyelids open over her giant yellow eyes. You stand in amazement and gratitude that she is there, seeing you. Breathe in. The moisture and horse mint cleanse your lungs. Breathe out. Listen. Ah. Now I'll say at this point, this is ambiguous to me. Not necessarily in a good or bad way, but it's ambiguous to me whether, because this had that same high pitched beep sound, but very quiet. Very quiet. So at this point, I don't know if this is like an anguished ah or if it is a satisfied ah. So we'll find out. I'm interested to
You're the
know.
one who has to put the tone in it, since you have to read this aloud.
I think that based on this, yes, it's probably not. Oh no.
Yes.
Yeah. But there we go. It's
Good call.
probably soothed. Yeah, and this is an interesting. Now I don't know if this is a part of the narrative or if it's something that is a genuine like oddity, I suppose. I won't judge it yet. But basically like we have like good stuff, and then we have this moment here which is like, if I'm reading it right, it is it is the same tone that we've been running from this whole time, but it's much quieter. So I don't know if I'm interpreting this right, but it might be either that tone is now quiet and therefore reduced, and we've managed to reduce it by going to our happy place, or if it's still there and we're just acting like we're just sort of pretending that it's gone. So we'll see. Yes. Your phone rings. You're jolted out of your happy place and back into the stark reality of your life. You look at the screen. It reads, Dad. Fuck. Answer quickly. Decline. Suck in a large breath. Ooh, I think we gotta suck in that breath, boys. Let's go. Your breath sounds more like a gasp. It gets caught in your throat. You part your lips slightly and slowly breathe out, feeling the air pass over them. Your phone rings a third time. You look up to the sky, nod, and slide the green button up. Hi, Dad. How are you? What are you doing? Oh, just some paperwork. What about you? What are you? Oh, wait. I need to scroll down. Just sitting here like we always do, watching Dr. Phil, of course. She's probably seen this one 10 times already, but of course, it's like she's watching it for the first time. I know, Dad. It's rough for both of you. You getting snow? A little, though not much right now. I have a I have a question for you. Did you ever let the fields fallow? Well, let me think. When we were paid to not produce and put the land in CRP, but nope, not really. We used to rotate crops to put nutrients back in the soil, not like they do now. Why? Just wondering. I'm writing this thing called Fallow about how artists need to, well, anybody really, take time and not produce. Be a human being, not just a human doing. Well, yeah, I suppose you're right. It's sort of hard to do when you grew up on a farm, isn't it? Yeah, it sure is. Well, tell mom hi. I need to get this done already. Or done today, okay? Bye. Bye. Hang up. Listen. Finally. And once again, we got that beeping. I can't tell if it's quieter now. We'll see. Harrow. Noun. Call back to the beginning, or maybe the beginning was kind of an overture for what we would find later. An implement consisting of a heavy frame set with teeth or tines that is dragged over plowed land to break up clods, remove weeds, and cover seed. Verb, draw a harrow over. Torment or vex, cause distress to. Yeah, I didn't even know that this was a noun. That's crazy. I had only ever heard this. Okay. So that's so interesting that we get a combination of make more productive later and then also torment effects. I'm interested in how those two connect. Derivatives, harrowing, acutely distressing. And harrower, one who harrows, a subduer of land. That's an interesting word, a subduer of land. This is a story beneath a story. At the roots. You're standing on a treadmill. Oh, because we were on ground level before, so now we're in the roots. Okay. Your dad is standing next to it. The treadmill starts slowly. What are you doing? You stare forward, avoiding his eyes. I'm walking. Why? The treadmill speeds up. You walk faster, but you hate treadmills. You think they're stupid. Why? I don't know. I hate these things. Don't you have work to do? You are now almost running. Your lungs feel ravaged. You try the buttons, but it won't stop. Neither will Dad. He stands there, shaking his head. You look at him, but he's not helping you. He's almost smug about it. Get me off this! Make this stop, please! This is stupid. You are worthless. He turns to walk away, but you swear you can see eyes in the back of his head. The aqua blue, judging, criticizing, lasering apart history. You close your eyes and send your energy into the earth. You stop moving. The treadmill jolts to a halt. Dad fades away as you whisper after him. This is my life. I will live it as I see fit. I have choices. You stand in front of a canvas. It's clean, white, and empty. You try to recall the dream, the treadmill. What was that about? Your body starts to feel like you are still on it. You dip your paintbrush in the black and start painting furiously. It's another word that has multiple meanings. I love that. It's a big hole with energy and confusion all around it.
It's a black hole.
Oh, we have that beeping. It's getting faster. Your head swirls. You try to get off. Your knees buckle and you find yourself on the floor. But you know what to do. Breathe in. Breathe out. You sit with your feet on the floor. You gather all the parts of yourself from your day and bring them into your energy center right below your navel. You let the energy swirl and build until the sensation is palpable. You take the swirling energy and send it down your legs, through the bottoms of your feet, and down through the layers of the earth and the dirt and clay and rock toward the center of Earth. Keep going until you reach cool Earth, Mother Waters. Let your energy sit there, being nourished. Ask her to let you bring some water back with you. Become a siphon. Draw the waters back up through the rock, clay, then dirt, up through your feet and into your legs. Bring it up through the top of your head and let it pour over you. It cools you. It soothes you. It connects you. Breathe in, breathe out. Big T trauma. Noun, origin, late 17th century. From Greek, literally, wound. Acute trauma results from a single deeply distressing or disturbing experience. Small t trauma. Chronic trauma is repeated and prolonged, such as domestic violence or abuse. Complex trauma is exposure to varied and multiple traumatic events, often of an invasive interpersonal nature. Possible causes of complex trauma: sexual abuse or incest, ongoing physical or emotional abuse, chronic neglect or abandonment, medical abuse or trauma, torture or being held captive, parentification or children taking on adult roles, human trafficking, genocide campaigns, living in a war zone or area of civil unrest, traumatic grief. Breathe in. You sit in a soft chair. And I'm noticing that the breathe ins sometimes are tied with breathe outs. And so it's like, yes, this is coming from because I'm reading this out loud, but also just in my mind as I'm playing, it adds a little uncertainty as to like what the tone of that is, and so it makes me like always a little surprised when we go to the next scene right away. You sit on a soft chair. You like this chair. It's comfortable and fits many different bodies. You especially like that it makes you seem smaller than you believe you are. That's interesting. I wonder what we believe we are. Across from you is a woman who's saying something about PTSD, trauma, burnout. Well, it seems like we have we have seen at least a couple of those. Sun streams in the window behind her, making her look like an angel. You can't see her face, but you squint anyway to try. You know her voice and that quirky way about her. She is familiar. You breathe out. You find yourself thinking, what am I doing here? What the hell is she talking about or nothing? Dale, what are we thinking about?
I am thinking, what the hell is she talking about? I don't know about you.
Yeah, I'm perfectly calm, lady. What are you talking about? She said she says,
Well, we just got she said something about this, and this. There's a lot.
yeah, those things seem totally unrelated. Okay. She says, do any of these seem to fit? You feel the fire in your chest start to move up to your neck. Your eyes narrow. She notices the ringing in your ears that's been there forever. Starts to pierce the ambient sounds around you. You think, why am I getting mad at her? She says, tell me what's going on. Your voice gets a little intense. That's really hard to hear. Why? She asks. You feel into your fire, your anger, your desire to lash out. There is something buried very deep in the marrow of your bones. Breathe in, breathe out. Because it doesn't feel like I deserve to have a link reveal reason. Uh-oh. Teresa, is it possible that we've reached a dead end here?
Possibly. Darn it.
Uh-oh. Is it possible? Can we just hit, like, you gave us a back button here. Is it possible that we could go back a few and try a different choice and come back here? Oh, or
Yes.
come back and try a different route?
Yep.
Okay, let's try. Can you tell me how far I need to go back? Oh, oh yeah. Not here. Can you tell me how far back I
It's
need to
the
go?
choices, maybe 2. I can't. I'm watching on
Oh, you're
on
watching
Right.
on
YouTube.
So
YouTube, so it's a little
there's
bit
a few
before.
seconds of
So
difference
it's.
here. So
Yeah.
I'm
I'm gonna
probably
go with Dale
Go.
was wrong when she
yeah.
said, "What the hell are you talking about?"
Gotcha. Okay.
So go
Let's
back
try.
one.
What am I
There.
doing here?
What am I doing here? Okay.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
I was just on a treadmill,
There we go.
in
Yep.
like in a bad dream.
You start to get up. The light shifts and you can see her face. She looks at you with surprise. I just need to move as you walk toward the windows. You look down at the wintry streets and bare trees. A sparrow sits on an empty branch. She has puffed out her feathers as protection from the cold. She is still with closed eyes, like she's preserving every ounce of energy and soaking up the tiny bit of sun. Her eyes open. You step back so you don't scare her, but your disappearing is what catches her eye. She leaves. You feel a part of yourself leave with her, envious of her freedom to abandon the place she felt safe. You turn quickly and walk out the door. In the hallway are closed doors and a staircase. You move to the top of the stairs, looking down. You flap your arms, but nothing happens, or so you think. Then you feel your chest move forward and your body lighten. Your mouth starts to open, forming what feels like a big sound. The door opens behind you. She emerges, her colorful scarf held in place by a pin. She moves back to make space for you to enter. All right, I gotta say, I've got no idea what's happening. I'm wondering if this is the therapist or other person that we're talking to right now. She moves back to make space for you to enter. As you walk past her, you notice her pen is a nest with blue eggs. Robin. You sit down in the chair you like. That feels like home. She looks at you and you nod imperceptibly. Flight, she says. What? Flight. Fight and freeze. Trauma responses. I'd say that was flight, wouldn't you?
Uh-huh.
You breathe out all of your air, so your chest collapses just a titch, not knowing if she knew how right she was. There is silence between you for a minute. She says, complex trauma happens a lot in the family of origin. You feel your body flatten. You hear yourself whisper, there is so much worse trauma in the world. She hears you. Trauma is trauma, she says. You get ready to rebuke her, but just as you slam your hands on the arms of the chair, you see your dad and his dad and his dad all hypernegative, critical, controlling, and damaged from something you'll never know. You see your passive aggressive mother who got it from her mother, whose own mother burned to death as she ran down the street, leaving 7 children. You see your parental grandmother and her mother who was orphaned when both her parents died, and she was taken in by the neighbors, who forced her into hard labor. Your eyes well up as they all come rushing around you, their stories, their grief, their DNA that lives on through you. Your reunion is split when she said, you are a survivor. That word hits you in the chest and knocks you against the chair. From deep inside you comes, am I? Surviving? Now, this is really interesting because this could be interpreted in a few different ways. like basically like, am I really living? Like, is this a life? Is this like, would you call this surviving? Or would it be the questioning, asking like I feel like I'm on the verge of dying here? To be continued. Thank you for playtesting Fallow. Back to the beginning. All right. Dale, would you mind talking for just a moment? I will be right back.
Uh, okay. Well, I'm gonna just say that I'm glad I did not have to read all that. My reading skills are not quite as talented, but that was the words combined with Lane's voice were very pleasant on a very not that pleasant story. Mark, are you going to unmute yourself so I don't have to talk?
Yeah, and I've muted you. Um, so actually, Dale. So as viewers may have noticed, I'm muting myself most of the time because we have a weird audio setup today. So a little behind the scenes, Dale. Can I ask you to mute yourself and then come over here, and then we'll share a microphone. So as Dale gets that done, I will. I took a bunch of notes as Lane was playing through because I couldn't interrupt with my tedium, which is probably the right thing. But let me ask the author about the first thing is the use of second person, which I thought is pretty interesting because we are playing as a character and we are making choices for that character and we're meant to embody that character, but we're also giving a lot of specifics, and this just hit me really early, just me in particular, because I'm left-handed, and so there was a whole thing at the beginning about using your right hand and drawing with your right hand, and that's not alienating, which might be a superficial take. That's interesting to me because that tells me as the reader to, okay, in this, what I'm putting myself into is a reality where I am right-handed, and so I'm giving myself to that character because it's being told in second person. But occasionally there would be details that it would ask me to interpret, but then also it would tell me how to interpret, and so that kind of back and forth was an interesting part of the story to me. Can you talk a little bit about like using second person and deciding when to be more specific about the character's actions and when to let the player sort of decide how it goes? You know what I mean? Because that's kind of a tricky thing to do because you're not going to give the player 1,000 million choices, right? Yeah. So the question is just about like the use of second person. You do this, you do that, because the character is pretty specific, but you're still telling the player that that's who they are. Um, can you just talk about like the choice to present it that way? Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Yes, I can. I know exactly which button to press. That was
Great, thank you.
my mistake, folks. Sorry, not to make you repeat all of that, but basically, I was asking about. Yeah, that's. I'm sorry about that, but basically, you were sort of describing the level of detail that you put into the character and talking about how you're describing them as left-handed, which is something I missed. So it makes sense to me now because the text is "What about my right hand?" And I think maybe what's missing there is the just a solid indication that that's a new strategy, if that makes sense. That's like just a tiny note, but I really like what you said, and everybody totally missed because I had you muted. I'm sorry again. Is the idea of like of getting into the character's thoughts and making those thoughts the player's thoughts. I really like that. I like I said, I think that could be like a little polish in there to really get that going. But I really like that as a motivation to enter yourself into that story. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a very visceral experience, I think, to, it's like, in some ways it's like a first person shooter or whatever, right?
Hmm.
So you're not even seeing yourself necessarily. You're just seeing your hands or what's around you or whatever. And so I was sort of trying to do that.
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
So
I was going to make the suggestion of
yeah.
maybe just switching the word describing the hand from right hand to the other hand, or let's try the other hand.
Right. How much do you want to leave ambiguous
Mm,
to let the player fill in?
Or,
yeah.
Yeah, that's one of those things where like there's not a right answer. There's you have to decide as the author like what you want to do, but that's a really good way. That's a good solution if you want to go
Hmm.
that direction.
yeah,
Hmm.
just like in the before survey, there is no right answer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
This
One thing
is
I
great. Yeah.
so the one thing that a bit of critical feedback. I think
Hmm.
when you get the phone call from the character's father, you're given a choice whether to answer, to dismiss it, or to take a beat. And I think what I struggled with that moment was I didn't have any motivation to pick any of the choices. Like I think there's one or maybe two previous choices to that are really, really, I would say, expertly led up to, where once you're given the choice, I, as a player, can make a choice based on my own feelings, but I'm also in the world of this character, and I'm understanding the sort of blend of my motivations and that character's motivations, and that leads me to make a choice. When the phone call comes, it's entirely about the character, and I haven't been given any reason to pick one thing or the other. And I
Hmm.
th- and I don't have a solution for that, but I think you could lean into that. You can bombard the character with or bombard the player with choices they're not prepared to make. That's like an interesting thing to do. I don't know. I don't suspect that was your intent. That's an interesting choice you could do. But I think if you want to make that moment feel more like heart dropping. What do I do? This is obviously the next chapter in a long running saga, right? I think that's pretty well told in that moment. You understand that it's a the choice that it even is a choice, right? To answer or not answer the phone is making it a choice tells it that there's something interesting about it, but I don't know what's interesting about it. I think so. Maybe does that make sense?
Yeah, it's out of the blue.
Yeah, and I like plot wise, I like that it comes out of the blue. Like I think that's
Hmm.
good. So that's why I don't have a solution
Yeah.
for you because there's some finessing to go. I just really liked a lot of the choices. I really liked the fact that even though I'm playing this other person and I'm embedding myself in their thoughts and their very specific feelings and history, I can make choices as them. I feel pretty good about that. But that's the one that I really didn't feel that I could.
I felt like that choice was probably my favorite out of all of them.
Oh,
And
really?
I don't say this because like I think because Mark, I think that you're 100% right about everything you just said.
Hmm.
But there was something about it that really worked for me, which was that I actually played this game through. quick before the show, and I did the other option. I did like just answer it right away.
Yeah.
My first play through the game, I was just like, I'm going to do everything as just assertive and fast as possible and see how things go in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just an absolute disaster. And and talking to the dad that way, and picking up the phone and just sort of like going in with no preparation without taking that beat was just a nightmare. I mean, Mark, I know that you played before the show as well.
Mm-hmm.
And do you remember what choice you took?
I think I dismissed the call was the first choice I made.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that what I really appreciated about this
Mm-hmm.
was seeing the contrast of the different ways. Now, I like only now, having gone through both, do I see that the kind of the message of this, as far as I can tell, seems to be, to me, my takeaway, Teresa, and I might be totally wrong, but the message that I receive on this is sort of to do things slowly, and to take a moment, take the time that you need before you choose your response to something. And I wouldn't have gotten that message if I hadn't done both of those paths. And so my only feedback here is, we had one game from a while back. This, I think, was a friend of yours, Mark, that presented a game here.
Yeah.
Where
it
actually had different choices available depending on how many times you'd played the game. I feel like I wouldn't have liked that choice as much if I hadn't gone through the like traumatic, more like bad result first, and then had the option to calm down and do it the second time through. I don't know if that's right for this game, but like I felt like my path through, where I did the like abrupt option and then the slow option, was the best way through the game, as far as I can tell. I don't know.
There's a whole meta component that's really interesting about that. Yeah.
It is one of the sticking points I have with this particular, like as you were reading it, I know that you won't understand how important that choice is because you haven't already done the other choices.
Yeah.
So I think, just back to Mark's point, putting something about the father in there ahead of time about the relationship would set this up better.
Yeah, and I get the feeling, having gone through it, that I mean, like we've been sort of alluding to, and like you said up top, there's no right choice, and I like it. What I think is that the character, the reason that makes that the choice is interesting is because they don't know what to do, and in that moment, and I think just seeding that a little bit in advance, but not too much, because you don't want to give the player the feeling that they are going to pick the right answer based on what they know.
Yeah.
It should still be a little bit like what? Which one? But it should be, it's like knowing that the character is unsure rather than the player being unsure, I think is the way you make that work, because I think Lane is right. It is a really interesting moment.
So can I ask that, since as long as we brought this up,
Yeah.
can we click through and pick those two different choices?
Sure,
Yeah.
you can.
Yeah, sounds lovely.
Oh wait, it's near the beginning.
You're doing that, I'd like to tell you a little bit about how other people have responded.
Yeah,
which I think
please.
is also interesting. Again, not gamers, so and writers, screenwriters. So a lot of people were either making choices based on how they were feeling themselves, or their own relationship with their father.
Right.
Which is really interesting to me. And there's something to be preserved there, I think, because, if I'm wanting people to embody a character, I want them to learn something about themselves as they're doing it.
Yeah, that was sort of another one of my notes, is like that blend between the player and the character. And I think that you have a lot of specificity in certain scenes, like the birds out back, or when you make the choice as to where to go, what your happy place is. There's such specificity there, but a lot of times you use language that is really ambiguous to sort of draw a kind of impressionist view of what's happening in the moment. And I wonder if the balance of that, because I'm what did I write down here? Something about like we. So like there's a point where when in the middle when the story breaks up and it defines Harrow, and that specificity is really interesting because it's very contextual, right? You're stepping out of the story for a moment, um, and then you sort of time cut and you're having this sort of imaginary moment, and then it's back to reality. And I think that ambiguity really works to give the story a bigger scope. But there are some things that are so specific that I am really projecting myself onto that character, and I'm less interested in what I personally would do. But I like how you're saying something that people do, because I suppose any choice where I don't have a way to do it, I will just decide how I personally would do it. I want to see a little more of that in the story. Really give the like let the player imagine that it is really them and not this character.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to follow up with the question of, do you see patterns of choices between different players? Like, do they always, do the people who choose the slump in the stool also choose the take a beat before answering the phone call and choose whatever? Or is it more different? Because like here we had both me and Lane shouting and Mark shouting options. So I was wondering if that was different.
I feel like I'm going through. I think I missed the dad call.
It's here.
It's here. Okay, cool.
Yep. You're like relaxing in your happy place, and then you get a phone call.
Right. So the fuck I think is the thing that gives you the most context. And I think Lane identified a few places of prose because he was also performing a little bit that he wasn't certain exactly how to reveal. And I think this is both clear and ambiguous in like a really good way. I think, and that's kind of what I was saying before. Like the player understands that this is an interesting choice, but we don't know why. And so yeah, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't want to ruin it by spelling it out too much, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Click on answer quickly.
Okay, answer quickly. So this is pretty relatable. I think a lot of people probably have these conversations with their parents, and it doesn't. I mean, I guess by design, this is not specific until we get a little bit further on, and then we have this choice to make here.
Okay, I'll go back and show us those other choices.
Okay.
Thank you for putting these in.
These backwards, yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think that's one thing about interactive fiction. I think a lot of people do think, like people play video games and they sort of think that it's cheating to like save the game and then go back if you make a mistake or whatever. And I mean, I think a more enlightened view is that it's impossible. Video games, it's impossible to cheat at if you're not playing against anybody. And like Lane says, there's a lot of value in going through it twice.
Yeah.
And so having these back buttons, I do wonder how people feel about, like, do they feel like it is cheating, or do they feel they're doing it wrong when they try the other thing?
I don't know. I know.
Yeah.
For the broadcasting, it's really helpful.
It's good for us, yeah. For this sort of more
Teresa,
testing purpose.
Did you hear a lot about other readers like going through it multiple times?
Yeah. People go back and go through all the choices.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Did they go through it in? Did they feel like different orders that they selected had a impact on the way that they perceived the story?
I don't think I have an answer for that question.
Okay. Yeah, because like I definitely felt like doing it the sort of like the way where I just like answered the dad right away and then hung up immediately. Like really made me appreciate the difference between that and the like more like calm approach. For what that's worth. I was wondering, I mean, unless we have more that we want to talk about in this particular direction, I was wondering, Teresa, is there anything that you were particularly interested in feedback on in any particular part of the game?
I have to go. I sent some questions to you actually. Let me just see if I can find them. Here it is. Oh, so
Well, while you're getting that
yeah.
in front of you, there's one thing that I think I walked away, like the main thing I walked away from it, and I suspect that there is no one message you're sending, but is the in the scene with the analyst, the trauma is trauma, right? That's the thing I felt pretty strongly toward the end is interesting because it is ambiguous that you have the character kind of like doubting their own sense of trauma, like this isn't a real thing or it's not as big, and I think that's something that a lot of people can relate to, and that idea that trauma is like a really important kind of like put your foot down statement that is really it's delivered at like the right moment in the story, and I really like that. The thing that I think I like when that happened, because prior to that, when we have the definitions of trauma, the complex trauma, which I think to a lot of people is a new idea or a new definition anyway.
Yeah.
It enumerates a couple of examples, and you feel like you get a pretty interesting idea, and they all do sort of rise high on the trauma meter, right? If you have that sort of superficial view of it. So then when we follow on with our character, I don't in that moment, I don't feel like our character has complex trauma, because what we've got up to it was ambiguous. And then when we get the trauma is trauma, I feel like that's a really solid, it's such an important, interesting moment and really well delivered at that time. But I wonder if the definition of complex trauma could be left like delivered a little differently, so as not to sort of seed that idea, because it's confusing in a way that is not, I don't think, is what you want to do. Is that making sense?
Yes, that's making sense. So I think that the way it is now, it almost overemphasizes the juxtaposition of the trauma is trauma versus the complex trauma is a really, really horrible things like human trafficking and abuse, going on for a long time,
Right.
and incest and things like that. And that's, those are all, when we read through it the first time, it's all like, those are really bad things. And so it's a juxtaposition, I think, with a purpose, but it might be almost too much, is what you're saying?
Yeah, there's kind of a meta moment where the player now gets it in their head that complex trauma is a combination of traumas, both ongoing and incidental, and like these horrific examples. And then immediately I put in stark relief that our character has not, because we're in that character's head. So I don't feel that me as that character has complex trauma until later on the analyst kind of nails it down. So there's something interesting about that. Like the player then is given that juxtaposition. So you could spin that in a positive way, like that's an effective, that sort of rug pulling moment.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that was your intent. I think it might be something worth just revisiting, or at least checking with other players to see how the arc of their understanding of complex trauma from when the idea is introduced to the end of that other scene.
Yeah, so I would say, put it in the comments of this video too. I've been watching a lot of YouTube lately. Please comment and subscribe.
Yeah, leave a comment down below. Yeah.
The thing that I liked was the birds, the observation of the birds and the observation of the birds in different situations, especially the group of birds where, once one left, everyone left, and that's kind of how you feel in your life a lot, is either, it's pouring or it's barren.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was, obviously as a character, you're projecting a little bit onto the birds.
Yeah, really effective metaphor. Yeah, I like that a lot. That's cool. And it didn't hit me as hard, but as you describe it, I'm like, yeah, you're totally right. That was awesome.
Okay, good job. That was awesome.
My last comment, because you said you had some questions for us, and we're eating up more time than we probably should have taken. But there's one spot where the word choices is highlighted as a choice, but the player is not given a choice in that moment, and I love that. I thought that was great. Like that kind of it's a little I don't know if that was your intent, but that sort of meta moment of like I have choices, and then you literally don't in that moment, and that's I would like to see more of playing with the form, more of giving players options, giving them choices that don't matter when the narrative it tells the player it does, and then you find out it doesn't, or giving them trivial choices that turns out to be consequential. I mean, this all depends on what you want to say, but I would like to see more of the interactive fiction, which isn't to say I'm looking for like multiple endings or anything like that. I think I don't need that at all. Or even a more complicated plot tree. Like I don't care about that. I would just like to see a little bit more of using the form to bring home that message. I mean, especially when you're sort of arguing with the analyst, like that, give the player the opportunity to fight back a little bit by giving them like, instead of having the story say what the character does, let the player engage in that misconception before they're corrected. Maybe more than once. I mean, I'm giving you answers. I really shouldn't be doing that, but yeah, I just love that moment where you just make a choice that's just not a choice, and that feels so interesting. I would love to see a lot more of that throughout it.
And I liked the multiple definitions of hero.
Yeah, I love the sort of breakaway stuff where it just becomes encyclopedic. That's so cool.
Well, and it can be both like you're making, like you're essentially like making it nicer and letting the field rest and, regrow some nutrients for your alfalfa and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it also is that act of, breaking up the clogged dirt can be so, I'm going to go with vexing, and that's built right into the definitions.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They're descriptive and instructive. It's really cool.
That makes me so curious and so like compelled to go on to the next part of the story. And I think that even actually adds like a small element of mystery to figure out like how this is all going to connect, because I'm really wondering like, is that other definition of hero going to come into play? Is it possible that the like main character can use, or like that in some way the like vexation that the main character has suffered is going to be something that is going to plow the field and allow them to do something later on? It makes me very curious.
What else was I saying? It was something about. Okay, so Mark as a very urban person.
I'm an urbanist, yes.
No, you're an urban person.
I'm an urban person, yeah.
Yes, this is.
Oh yeah, I've spent little time on farmland, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay.
And I mean, I have spent little time on farmland.
Right, but you're singling me out for fun, I guess.
Well, I feel like I have a slightly better background than you do.
That's true. Yeah, you're more of an outdoorsy person.
Her name is literally Dale. Let's go on.
Yeah.
Yes. So then my question is, not having the background on Fallow and like what that actually is doing in the field and the hero, how do you feel like you missed out on anything compared to Lane, which I think he grew up more in the country?
I mean, I knew what both those words meant, but I still love that they're spelled out, because that contextualizes the experience. Because yeah, I don't relate to the sort of the setting that's being described, right? The picture that's being painted, and so that might be more why I think about myself as embodying that character rather than being that character, because that's just my own personal view on it, and I suspect that's wildly different for each person who experiences the story. But I didn't feel alienated from that experience. Once I got the hook that that's the type of person this is, the story was asking me to be that person, and that was fine. Which I will say, that's a risk, right? Where you can ask a player to experience something that's so foreign to them, and you don't ramp them into it enough that it just doesn't get through to them. They're playing with action figures rather than being part of the interactive story. I don't think this, and I'm susceptible to not relating to characters in fiction for that reason. I didn't have that problem here at all. I believed that when the character felt a certain way from a certain stimuli that I wouldn't have felt, didn't bother me. I bought into it and imagined that I was the type of person who would do that.
Yeah, and when I took the before survey for all of you, it asks you what you think of when you hear the word fallow, and I was like, well, I have heard that word before, but my brain has lots of pointer arrows, so I can't tell you what it meant.
Yeah.
And then once we got to it in the story, I was like, oh, of course, I usually hear it in the terms of letting your field lie fallow, and like the importance of this, this is appropriate because you have it up right now, but to like remove weeds and cover seed, that cover crop and the importance of that cover crop and that importance of rotating your crops, like all came back to me from my more planty, outdoorsy background.
Right.
I mean, and that's all very academic. I never grew up on the farm or anything like that, or and I have visited farms, but I have never worked on a farm.
Yeah. Well, like Fallow is such a perfect title for this project, and the Fallow and Harrow here, like it does a really great job of like justifying stepping away to define it all. Like even if you do know like Lane was playing and he's like, oh, I only understood this one definition, so it was literally helpful to him to understand. But I think it's also important, even if you are fully versed, it gives you like, this is why this is important, and this is what it means, and it puts you into the mind of the character, because like the definition is known to them and contextualized by them. So I think I would venture that regardless of your familiarity, it's useful. Like even if you're fully or not, like you know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel like when I read it, I had all this background.
Yeah, like, right. And you got to bring it to it, where I didn't get to bring that to it, right? Yeah.
Okay. So are we ready to move on?
Well, there was questions for us that we didn't get to because we just went on and on.
Well, I mean, most of them are answered, but I think some of them, like because I'm really new and this is like a really steep learning curve just to be able to, put some kind of interactivity into it. I was just wondering if there were things that people had thought about as far as interactivity or images or sound. Like I want to make it more, or maybe it's better if it's simple, because in some ways it's a very distilled down, it's a very raw piece, right? And if I put more images, and it's too bad we couldn't hear the sound, but the sound itself is just very simple in a way, though not. So
I was gonna say that I think that there's a big risk when you play with very quiet sounds in this kind of game. Both when I played myself and then when I played through Parsec here, both times I was wondering, is this technically working out? And I was taken out of the experience because I was wondering, like, is my like sound setup actually working? So I wonder, like, I think that you're doing something that is kind of effective with like a sound that is sort of barely on the edge of consciousness, but at the same time, like there is a particular price that you pay with that, and you're probably aware of this, but like where like I was taken out of the experience the first time I played because I was constantly wondering, like, are my speakers working well enough for this?
It's interesting you say that, Lane, because like none of that occurred to me at all, but you're totally right. I think I did that thing where when I playtest something and there's like a bug or something, or like a piece of animation is broken, I just put it out of my mind, because it's like, they know it, right? Like it's like I'm not gonna go ahead and critique it or even analyze it.
Not the final version.
Right. So I'm just gonna, I'm not. And what I think with that instinct, I ended up ignoring it as a part of the experience in terms of its importance to it. So I think I ended up missing it, which is my fault,
I
not the
wonder
game's fault.
if you could start it off with like an intro page where you like, you know, press a button and then it like says the word
Yeah,
Fallow, and then you can, and then it says please adjust this volume.
right, which is pretty common for sort
Yeah.
of experiences that have intermittent audio. So you test that
Yeah.
in advance. Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking of it as adjust your white balance on your shooter.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. Yep.
But audio.
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, to your credit, you do warn the player that there is audio, and
Yes.
so if they don't hear it when the story says there's something to be heard, they should, you know, turn the volume up or whatever. So within the confines of the tools you're using, I don't know how much more you can do, but that's definitely something to look into, because particularly if you're thinking about this, the audience for this being people who may not be as tech savvy or as game savvy or as, I think this is in Twine, is that right? Whichever, you know, system, if they're not as savvy to those things, you may want to hold their hand a little bit more at the top. Yeah.
Oh, the other
Yeah.
thing I was gonna say is I couldn't hear the sound at all, but as we went through it, that kind of like, because I don't know what it sounds like, but
Mhm.
like there is a version of tinnitus or tinnitus.
Tinnitus, yeah.
Depending on who you are and how you pronounce it, it's both ways are correct.
Hmm.
Where it is based on like your pulse in your ear,
Yeah.
and I had that for, you know, maybe a couple days
Hmm.
last month, and it probably was related to stress.
Yeah. Well, I will say when I played for it the first time, I did recognize the sound immediately as that kind of buzzing in your ear.
Uh-huh.
And the story does make it pretty ambiguous for a good long while as to what the noise is. It gives it a lot of like allegorical descriptors, but doesn't quite say what it is. But I don't know that everybody will catch on to that. My instinct is it could use a little bit more context, even though I did feel like I understood it.
And then I would say that the simpler, like as far as this, the better for this game. This, the way it is fine with just the typeset and the words.
Hmm.
If I was going to add any visuals to it, it would be like ink drawings or pencil drawings of birds.
Yeah, to actually paint the picture as it's being described. Yeah, I don't think interactive fiction needs a ton of multimedia. I think, you know, no one's so cynical that they can't read a story. But I agree that's a good place for it, especially because where it comes in the story, it's a refreshing moment, right?
Uh-huh.
And so that adding those
So
visuals would help.
So you're saying that I didn't just suggest that because I like birds, huh?
No, I don't. Well, maybe that's why you suggested it, but it's a good idea nonetheless. I also think at the very beginning, when you're suffering, there's that moment where you're suffering from essentially writer's block, painter's block, or whatever. You know, there's a million ways you could depict that interactively. You know, and you could, you know, it'd be outside the scope of probably the tool set you're using, but you know, having some sort of like, you know, canvas that you move your mouse over that doesn't work, and let the player feel that same frustration. There's, you know, like I said, there's a million ways to accomplish that. It doesn't have to be so literal as that.
Yeah.
But I don't think it needs a lot of visual stuff. Like I said, I would love to see more of the sort of choices and the interactivity being played with as a form, but I wouldn't put a lot of multimedia demands on it. I mean, it'd be great if you could, but it's not. I don't think it's necessary for the story to work.
Uh-huh.
What do you think, Lane?
There's a Sierra game from way back called Quest for Glory that has this moment where you go and you rest in an orchard and you go to sleep there, and the dreams are beautiful. They're like poetical lines being read by a great narrator, and there are these beautiful illustrations that come up in the background, and it makes it so all the more shattering when you come out of it and come back to life, and the dreams like turn into like being startled awake by some sort of creature or something.
Yeah.
So the like I do think that what Dale is talking about with making those scenes all the more idyllic, if you can get like you know, you have the like something that's similar to a woodcut at the beginning, like maybe a pencil illustration or something of a bird there. I would personally love that. It would bring me into the moment all the more. But yeah, I agree with Mark that generally it's the words that are so effective, and I think that that it doesn't need to be any like less raw than it is. So
Yeah.
I would approach that with care, but I do think that that would be one moment, that like happy place thing where an illustration could be really cool.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Well, thank
Can
you.
you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I was planning on putting some sounds in there that are relevant for the places.
They're bird sounds.
Mhm.
'Cause I like birds.
Yes.
So,
No.
any other questions?
Well, just I think I guess a main question is it too dark? Does it need
No.
more? No.
You know, I think
Like,
we are buffeted by the fact that we did this together as a group.
yeah.
Mm,
I would say that in the early going, I think the point is you get the point across pretty quickly, and I think that you could probably lose a couple of, I don't want to say pages, but you know there's a that where it kind of repeats the same point a little bit, and that's the only thing that I think makes it maybe a little dark, is that repetition.
Mm.
I think the content itself is relatable enough, and I don't want to say every day, but it's not. It's a sense where maybe it's a little sad, but like, but I don't think you need to like, turn the dial on that. I think maybe you don't need to use it, you don't need to wallow so much in the early going, I think.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well,
And that's just a pacing thing, really. It's not,
I mean,
not really about the
I will
content.
tell you literally about my experience during this.
Yeah.
Our
it's
friend-
really hard to hear you,
Oh,
Dale.
sorry.
Sorry.
Thank you for telling me.
Yeah.
I will tell you a little bit about my experience while doing this. And our friend, Mr. Stephen McGregor, was looking for some narrative short games to share with a group of middle school or high school students. And I was like, oh, well, this has a survey with it. It sounds like it's nice and short. And then it came in and it was like, okay, this may be triggering and this has some swears. And I was like, okay, well, it depends on what the swears are, and like you're also in a very formal like classroom setting. And by the end, I was like, this is probably too heavy for a classroom setting. So in that way, it's heavy, but not too heavy for the individual player necessarily.
Yeah,
So
maybe.
that's just some general feedback that is not actually pointing in any direction.
And I think it's like, I mean, I was like a lot of young artists. I was pretty emo in high school, so like I loved all the dark, sad, depressing stuff. But I think this story, I think in order to fully walk away with what it gives you, there's a little bit of like self-reflection and self-awareness, and so that might be why it might feel just dark to people who haven't or not fully emotionally developed.
Yeah, and
Right.
like the other thing is the difference of doing it in a classroom with a bunch of people you don't know very well, or want
Right.
to keep appearances for. Meanwhile,
So contextually not appropriate for all audiences.
yes,
But in
right.
general, you wouldn't
But
describe
fair
it.
for the internet where the whole world is just fine.
Right.
Oh.
Okay. Well, thank you. I didn't know if Lane, if you wanted to talk about circular narratives at all, or should we leave that for some other time?
Sure, although I'm going to need a little guidance on that. Because I did recognize there were a couple of things that were circular. I mean, of course there were, as Dale mentioned, motifs of birds breathing in, breathing out, coming into reality and imagined reality over and over, and of course the overall circular nature of interactive fiction, of wanting to repeat the same content again to see different like angles that you could go in the story. But I'm curious, what are you talking about in particular?
Well, I think it's where you so a lot of people interpret circular narrative as where the end sort of starts back at the beginning, and that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is when you when it feels, how do I even explain this? When it feels like you come back around to the same point but move on, you have more information, you have a better like understanding of it, you have more context. So sometimes like some things are left ambiguous because you're going to revisit them, and then you'll have more. It's like life, right? Like you don't know everything from the beginning. In fact, we don't know much when we die, I would guess.
Oh
But
yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like it's like, okay, now, like I had a dream 10 years ago, and it took me 10 years to figure out what it was about, because I had enough experience that I could now see that dream and interpret the images in a way that I couldn't when I had it. But I knew at that time that someday I'll understand what this is about. So,
Well,
mhm.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, a lot of this came from being a set designer and working with women playwrights whose work was not, this 3-act structure where it's, one main climax, and it's over. And
Mm.
I think of it as a more female, and not saying that, everybody has male and female, but a more female where it's like very circular, very multiclimatic, very, like there's not just like one, build to the end.
Mm-hmm.
It's more
Mm.
of a, I always I often think of the analogy as walking through a prairie, because that's where I
Mm.
grew up, where like you have a group of, one kind of flower, it's all green, but you have like a group of yellow flowers, you have a group of, clover, you have a group of thistle, like it, but it's all mixed up, and it's not like this drive in these linear stories where
Mm.
it's where you have to get to the end. And this comes sort of, I've been thinking this for a long time, but this idea that the hero's journey, where you save the community, whereas the Virgin's Promise, which was written by a woman to sort of a critique, but also an alternative to the hero's journey. The Virgin's Promise is where actually it's the community, or in a more metaphorical sense, our bodies are the ones that need to change. Whereas in the
Mm.
hero's journey, it's the outside, it's the predator, it's the, whatever they're fighting against has to be defeated. Whereas in the Virgin's Promise, it's ourselves that need to change, and that we're the ones that need to be upended for the community to survive. So it's just a really interesting, I think, way of looking at this. And being a documentary filmmaker, I've just noticed how different people answer questions. If you're an indigenous person in particular, like you don't ever, I mean, oftentimes the answers, if you ask a question, the answers are given to you in a story.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a direct answer. And I think that that's a lot of how I'm thinking about this circular storytelling, where it's about like combining ingredients until you have something that looks like something.
Yeah, I see some hallmarks of that in this as it is, but I think there's opportunities to go further with it if that's what you're aiming for. I mean, certainly there's the this is a story. We come back to that toward the middle of the experience. But what you can do is I mean, there is certainly no video game player is going to see this, the play have to play the same level again. They're not going to. No one's going to be unfamiliar with that experience. So I don't think you
Mm-hmm.
have to. I don't think you have to be. Need to be afraid of literally repeating whole sections. You could provide players with different choices each time they go through. You can
I
give them
see.
very confusing sequences that, as they make their way back around again, they will understand better, and so then they could then their choices can be more motivated, which is kind of what I was talking about at the beginning. That would
Yep.
be a way to solve that without just seeding the information so early. The character suffers from this, like this difficulty expressing themselves with their art. You can certainly come back to that moment and have them make inch by inch more progress. If
Hmm.
that's just one way of doing it. You've got other places
Yep.
in the story where you can loop back to in a way that would be really
Yep.
effective. I think you do have all the ingredients, but I think if you really want to go further in that direction, I mean, go for broke. It sounds great.
Yeah. Yep. No, thank you. I'm just happy to have what I have,
Yeah.
frankly. But I'm really excited about, getting it at least this far so I can then go back and start sort of finagling and seeing where I can take it. So
I hope
thank you
listeners
so
really
much.
heard that, because that's a really healthy game developer attitude to like just
Oh
like
yeah.
I'm so proud of what you did, so happy with what you made, and knowing there's more to make, like and whatever that is whatever that is. Um, it's a good attitude.
Thanks.
One thing I'd like to add at the end here is that there were some things, and like I don't know exactly how to interpret this, but where I've recognized that artists will oftentimes use improper like syntax or like unusual spelling or that sort of thing in order to like make a particular point. And I would just want to say, if that's not what you're doing, you should very carefully proofread what you're doing, because it can send ambiguous messages,
That's true.
especially in this format where players in particular, are going to be driven to try to pick up every little scrap of meaning that you're leaving behind in
Mm,
order to try to better understand what's the best choice for them to make. So that stuff, as much as like writers are going to pick over that, like players are going to pick over that, like even more. So just be very careful about that.
okay.
And you're not likely to get a lot of really good feedback on that from players, because when you give someone a game to test, and they're like, oh, the button in the menu is 3 pixels to the left, you should fix that. You're not going to get that feedback from anybody, because like Lane is saying, there's intentionality that people are either inferring or ignoring, and so you're probably not going to you're really just going to have to go through and proofread it 3 times or 4 times just to make sure you've got what you've got. And I think there are a couple places where like choices are either the last word of a sentence, but sometimes they are just a single word presented in context, or sometimes the things should feel like a quote, but they're not written as quotes. So there's stuff like that. I think it all as a story, there's no ambiguity in how it's being told. But I think as a piece of software,
Hmm.
I think like nailing down a format for some of that stuff could be
Yep.
helpful, or playing with the format and
But
using
the
that.
trouble is, Mark. I mean,
Mhm.
as you well know, as you just said with playing with it, is like
Yeah,
the moments where the format broke were actually spectacular. Like
yeah,
that like part where I mean, it's so simple. It's so simple, but just having like the word normal be a abnormal link to the next part that you have to figure out. That was really cool. Like that made me think
oh
about
yeah,
like,
I
oh
totally
man,
agree.
everything could have some sort of meaning. And so that's why I'm saying is like, since that sort of trained me to be like, oh, everything could mean something. Like that's why I'm getting at like so persnickety about like little spelling things and such, because like, wow, that was very effective at making me think everything matters.
Right. Well, you identified very early on the word harrow in
Mm,
the opening as potentially uh, meaningful, and then sure enough, it showed up as meaningful.
mm,
But looking at the screen now, you see the choice word here is seed, and that is, I believe, it's just because it's the last word of this paragraph. If you
Hmm.
format it in such where there was a little like chevron that you clicked, or a next button or something, that would sort of do what it's already doing. But I think
mm,
players would be, because there's those certain places like with the mouse over links are great, because they're really useful in terms of like literally the physicality of mousing over versus
mhm.
clicking is really effective at
Hmm.
those points of the story. So like that is brilliant. And like Lane was saying, the word like normal that's just portrayed abnormally. But what that means then is that you have other areas where you just have the last word as the choice.
Sure.
It's not that it's confusing to players, but yeah, I think that having a standard for that, so that when you break the standard, it's clear to the player that's what's happening. Um,
Yep.
yeah, but I will say that is something that I've played a lot of interactive fiction games, and they all struggle with this. Um,
Hmm.
how to depict these things, because you want to do your own thing, and there isn't actually, as far as I understand, a like an industry standard for this that you would then adhere to or divert from. There's like, you know what I mean? So And the tools that you're given, when you're working in these frameworks, only give you so much to play with. So.
Yep. Great. Yep, those are really good points. I know a lot of it was just like I didn't. I mean, adding quotation marks just wholly screwed everything up. Like it wouldn't
Right.
link. I mean, it's just like I was supposed to. Took me 2 hours to get a different image in last night, so it was just a stupid little one-letter thing, and anyway. But so, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah,
Oh my goodness.
fighting
She's
with your
gotten the
tools
taste of what game development is like. I'm so proud. I'm so happy. By the way, I just want to say before we go, we've had like a handful of positive and negative things to say. To me, my bottom line, this did not feel like a first-time game maker's project. Like this seemed like it was very competent. I felt like, man, this person at least knew how to tell a really good story. I guess that comes from your wealth of your history. But man, like this did not feel like somebody who was flailing about thrashing to make a first-time game. Like this was pretty well put together, with the exception of that one broken link, but we can forgive that.
Yeah, I feel like on playtest, one broken link is a pretty. You've cleared the bar by a good measure. There's no worries about that. But I totally agree. It didn't.
Oh, thank you.
Playing through, I mean, I think that I was focusing a lot on the storytelling, but in terms of the actual like game making, like yeah, it doesn't feel like a first attempt at all.
Yeah. And the narrator was great.
Yeah, you don't get not everyone gets to play with Lane as the narrator.
All right, I have taken up way too much time, so I'm so grateful.
Well, there's a lot to discuss. Thanks for sticking around, and thanks for showing.
Yep.
Thanks for folks watching. Yeah, and we will put the link in the Discord for the
after survey.
Yeah, or
our next.
We'll do something anyway.
Before we start, because like my YouTube won't load now. And I don't know. Is there another place that you watch this, or is it just on YouTube?
It is just on YouTube. Live? Yeah.
Okay. I wonder why my link won't load now. Maybe it's just my internet.
Well, it looks like we have a playtester in the room.
Okay.
A new playtester. Is that right?
It is. Yes.
Hey, Stephen.
Hi, Stephen. We have the most awkward moment in internet history here because Jason, our next game developer, has just stepped away. So Stephen, let's fill the air here. Let's fill the air and really drill down into the controversy around whether you are interested in business. That's what I think the audience wants to hear about.
Lane, I'm sorry. It's even more awkward because our developer is back now.
Oh, okay, Jason, hurry up and get in the channel, buddy. Spare us. And by the way, okay, and Teresa is indeed gone. So, yeah, bye-bye, Teresa.
Thank you so much. Okay, so,
oh, hello.
Would you like to introduce this?
I do.
You guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, let me ask you folks a question. Hold on. Whoa. You thought this was time where we were going to do a nice introduction. Instead, we're just going to let people enjoy Jason's artwork here, and I'm going to ask the questions around here. Here's my question. Do you know any folks who have gotten to a high degree of, like, a math skill, and they've forgotten how to do arithmetic? Because I know a bunch of those people, and it's like a common joke in the math department. Now, Jason, as an audio engineer, the first question he asks when he comes in here is my audio working? And I find this hilarious. I find this very fitting. Welcome aboard. We can actually hear you very well. Thank you for joining us, Jason.
Yes. Thank you for having me, of course.
Okay, so
Now,
is Stephen going to be playing this one?
I assume that's why I'm here.
Okay.
That's perfect.
Read the title of this game, please.
Okay, well, first off, I don't know. I didn't know when I was supposed to connect. I don't know if there's like a procedure in which I'm supposed to request access to the computer.
You've done it before.
Okay.
I know, but it's been a while. I'll just try to connect and then.
There you go. I'll accept. And this is keyboard connection or play or mouse and keyboard. What's the?
So Yeah, he's gonna need mouse to hit the buttons for the UI and keyboard to
Okay.
play.
All right, Steven, I'm
Got it.
giving you my mouse. It's yours now.
Oh dear.
Okay, will you please read the title of this game?
Mon Pause Astromining Surveys Salvage.
Oh, so
and
it's
Colony Defense
MQ
Incorporated.
and PQ.
That's
It does
what
look
I heard
like-
it as too.
It does look like that.
It does look like that, but I read the title ahead of time because Lane was asking for people to.
I'm gonna give a quick overview with just one comment right at the top. This is a highly polished turd.
Hey!
There's a lot of stuff wrong with it, but it has this. Everything about it feels like it should be better than it is because I spent way too much time on things that didn't matter. So, take that for what it's worth, I suppose.
I mean, guy, like, is there any better gift to deploy upon a playtesting stream than somebody who is extremely good at many things, but sometimes judges where he should spend his time incorrectly? Like, Mark, come on, this has to be a payload for us, right?
I suspect so, yes.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad at least Steven's playing it because when I was like kind of getting more in the weeds on like how to do the UI, which again is pretty bad right now.
Yeah,
On
BQs and BQs.
yeah. So, well, I'm trying to design it for mobile and for it. Just it's a bad thing. I need to pick a lane, Davis. Nailed it. Anyways, I
Got him.
So I'm glad Steven's playing it because basically the UI is a spreadsheet and it's a turn-based shooter. So I feel like he'll enjoy that.
Oh my gosh.
Spreadsheet.
Yes.
Okay, I'm hitting a new game.
The dream. Hey,
I was gonna look at
Steven,
the settings, but then you said spreadsheet. So,
Steven, could you do
there's
us a
no
favor
settings,
in
it
the
just
Discord
reloads
here?
the title screen.
Yeah.
Could you restream? Could you like stream to
Oh yeah,
Discord
sorry.
so
Of
we
course,
can watch
of course,
that?
of course.
Thank you.
I can't.
Okay. And I am going to take my bio break.
That's the wrong stream. I'm through Chrome. This button.
Oh, wait.
I make games
Steven,
for a living,
Steven,
y'all.
what about restreaming to Discord?
I'm working on it. I did it wrong. I'm working on it.
Lane,
He's
you're
not
connected
seeing
to
the stream.
Lane, you're connected through Parsec. You can just watch that way.
I can't.
Is the stream working? It's like
No,
it's
but I
like
want Jason
a
to be
white.
able to watch. We see
It's
a
like a-
white box over part of the screen.
Okay, I don't know what
pretty
that
funny.
is.
Okay, well I'm gonna watch through Parsec. Yay me.
Well, Jason, if you
This is
want
there.
to connect via Parsec as well, I'm using the office internet, so I've got much more upload bandwidth to share.
Oh, this is so cool.
I don't know what that is.
Immediately, I absolutely love this interface, with the exception of I feel like hitting left and right should bring me left and right to the next contract, and hitting plus and minus doesn't make sense.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. As previously stated.
Well, I will say when I got a look at it, I was like, this makes no sense. I'm not going to bother criticizing it. Like,
Yeah.
Oh,
I understood pretty quickly that it was something you tried, and you're gonna do something. You're gonna make
Damn.
improvements.
Yes.
lane
yeah.
0,
Very-
Mark
very well
1.
done.
Very nice.
Well, so the other big thought I had too is I like really chunky pixel art, but
hmm
it's really hard to deal with the real estate when
Yeah.
I mean it's hard to make readable fonts at that size, right? Where it's
Yeah.
like some of this stuff is just really difficult. So I might end up like doubling the resolution.
Oh, did you make these fonts?
But I don't know. Yeah.
Oh,
Another thing I
dude,
waste time
they're
on.
pretty good. With the exception of MQ and PQ, like I think they're pretty good.
So I should probably give you a tutorial.
I'm picking up on it. You
Yeah.
He's
move
got
with the
it.
left. Move with the
He doesn't know
A
about
and
hitting
D
E
or
yet,
left and
though.
right.
Yeah, hit
Yeah, I don't know what
the E key. Are you playing with
E.
WASD?
I am.
Okay, yeah. If you
Yeah,
hit the
Steven,
E
you
key-
never need any of these. I've played the whole game. You don't need it.
Okay.
Oh, says Lane.
I don't
So-
even know
Farm
tractor.
trader?
What am I, a space farm?
It's
Don't
like
be
a
ridiculous.
Oh, are these
it's like a
different
tractor
weapons?
beam,
Okay,
bro.
must be different weapons.
Yeah, they
Yeah, what
are.
is-
So you can
Hmm.
charge up to the required amount by pressing down when you're on the regular screen. So if you toggle off of that, the controls are almost as bad as the UI. So if you hit down, whatever energy you haven't used will go into your stored energy bar at the bottom. So like basically, if you skip your turn by pressing down, it will take the 3 points that you have
Oh, you can do that. Oh, that's cool.
Oh,
I will say
okay.
when I tested this
I need
game
to shoot this
earlier,
bomb
it took me a good long while to realize it was even turn-based.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, I was
interesting.
just like
Sound
testing to
like
see if it worked. I wasn't really getting into it, but I was like,
Right,
why
right, right.
is sometimes it moving and sometimes it's not? And then I'm like,
Oh.
oh, I get it now. Took a little bit.
Gotcha.
Oh,
I'll charge that.
those little rings that you can collect, those must be for your ammo for the swarm.
Don't.
They are. The swarm right now is one of the only weapons that requires like additional resources. But there's going to be the different weapons are going to have different
Discharge.
resource costs on top of the
Mm.
energy costs. Well, some of them will and some of them won't, right? So like you might be able to get
Let's go.
like a cheaper version of something, but it might
Yeah.
cost additional resources or something,
Sorry,
Oh,
screen.
man.
or not be as performant or something.
Sorry, it just hit me that I'm talking to the maker of the Sledgehammer Bride promo art, and like
Uh-huh.
I just got butterflies in my stomach all of a sudden. I
All
need
right.
to deal with
Okay,
this.
okay,
Very sick.
okay, Lane. Okay.
Okay.
I know.
Steven
I know
knows what
we've
I'm
done some
talking
game
about.
jams together,
do.
but
Oh my God, Steven, that was a play. That was a play.
Thanks.
Now, one question that I have is looking at the screen. I see the collect ore up at the top, but I find myself a little confused as to how much ore he needs to collect. Is there a display of how close he is to achieving his objective here?
there isn't, and I was considering trying to figure out some kind of element to indicate that, but there's so much junk on the screen already. I'm like really trying to figure out how to. I don't know. Like this might just be a bad idea in general, like the whole thing. You know what I mean?
Well,
this
it's
sounds
There's a lot of
a-
stuff on the screen.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to break out an extra E to spell the word artiste here because I feel like I could use more information, if anything.
Well, sure.
Oh wait.
Well, I will say that the information that is presented, I don't know what any of it means.
Right. Of course.
It's not that there's too much or not enough. I don't think that's a problem at all.
Well, we
So-
don't know because we don't know what
actually,
it means.
I was super hoping that you specifically, Mark, would say that because I kind of felt like that would be your impression,
Yeah.
and I think that if
You had me
if
pegged.
this stuff that and get rid of the numbers if possible, but if I could,
Oh, come
if
on.
I can tutorialize the UI in a way where they, a player goes on the same journey I went on developing it, then it
Yeah.
would be plenty easy to understand, right? Because they would get the information when they need it, and then
Yeah.
at that point for it to be pretty easy.
I don't think the small ones
well,
drop anything.
I think there's a couple of.
They have a 5% chance, Stephen. A 5% chance.
Oh, 5%. Got it.
Oh, yeah, the classically easy to learn number, 5%. Yep.
Yep.
I mean, that's fine. If you shoot them, there's a possibility you get more benefit out of it.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah, and so in this particular case, I think if you collect literally one ore, you win.
I don't know how to use
The title is
Swarm.
accurate.
Oh, let's go. Okay, Swarm
Oh,
Swarm. All right.
That looks sick. Okay, can we
Like,
just
the game
agree
is like, you don't
that
need
this
these.
game looks absolutely beautiful and that I can't believe that it doesn't have sound
Aw.
because like these pixel animations are fantastic.
Yeah, it looks great. I mean, you kind of imagine what it sounds like. It just feels like it's on mute. Like
Right.
you kind of like it's visually rich in a way that like you can kind of fill out all the details. It's really cool.
Now, can anybody explain to me how a person who owns I just want to say this.
Not gonna get anything.
I want a moment to say this properly. A human being who owns 2% of all of the Ludum Dare #1 audio awards has not put any audio in his game.
I got nothing to prove, friend. No, it doesn't matter. It's a play test. It's not a record deal.
All value. All I assume is the mine and stuff, the crystals. 30% hull value, 100% destruction. That's hard, but now that I kind of understand how the game works, maybe it's easier. Penalty 0 earned. Okay.
Yeah, I feel like you can't fail any of these. I didn't double check that, but I think it's really hard
Whoa.
to fail.
Wow, I feel called out right now because a certain somebody failed the fourth one earlier
yeah?
today.
All right. Well, maybe I did put that in. I don't remember. I was too busy not putting sounds in it.
Yeah. It is destroy 90% of the asteroids.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah. So yeah, I guess in that one, You probably could miss a few. So this is another thing
Yeah.
about this. Is
So cool.
these levels are mostly just randomly generated.
Can we? Can I? Can I
some-
undo? Can I undo?
Nah,
No.
there's no
Fine.
undo in space.
You can. Oh,
Wait,
right.
Steven,
Don't move right.
Didn't you just say that it felt a little bit like cheating to go back? Didn't you say
That's
that
a
in chat
visual
earlier?
novel, Mark.
Oh,
That's a
so
visual
true.
novel. But
So
different
true.
Okay,
God.
all right, if you say so.
You think you know somebody after doing a podcast with them for 5 years, but you still learn. You still
Yeah.
learn. Wow. So
So
what happens if you get down a bunch? Can you like bank up moves to like move more later on?
Oh, bank up to move more? No.
Okay.
Though I in an early version of it, I did have it so you could put stored energy back into your current energy, and so you could just move around and shoot more or
Yeah.
whatever. But I think like it
Why not?
that having that mechanic as a permanent thing didn't feel good. But I think as a selectable option, like as one of the tactical options, might be cool. So like maybe, you could say, okay, I don't want the tractor beam. What I'd rather have is this like restore upgrade where it costs 3 energy, but it just cycles the 3 energy back into my turn, something like that. But it would replace your other one.
Mhm.
So I have like a bunch of stuff in there that's like not actually playable.
This works.
Bunch of upgrades and different tactical options
Oh,
and
yeah.
stuff.
Oh,
That make it
yeah.
feel different, but
Oh.
yeah, but that's going to be part of like
Yeah.
earning rewards and completing contracts and stuff like that. But none of that stuff is in there because I didn't have time.
Okay,
Oh, man.
Oh, I
have
need
to
this.
say is based on the directionality of the
Oh,
engine
dear.
flare, it feels like you should be moving forward
They bad at
much faster than you could possibly move sideways.
Dale, you are
Let me
stepping
see.
on one of the and by the way, you might have you probably have I think you have a valid point here. But I want to say that like one of the really cool things about this game is that there are patterns in and Steven and I know this very well
What?
in shmups that you just don't do because
and
they're
you can't
they're
do that.
physically possible, but because like the player interprets them in real time, it overwhelms people and creates an unpleasant experience.
Yes.
What if you just got rid of the extra engine flare? They were just like.
Oh, you mean the particle effects on the engine?
Yeah. And then it's
Wait, are we
just-
concerned about the particle effects on the engine?
I clearly am because I'm concerned with physics.
So you
no,
know,
wait,
I actually,
no. I didn't mean to do this mission again. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
I'm just gonna fail it. See what happens.
Just, then you're just, space.
Yeah, Steven, smash into stuff.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
So you will
I want to
take
see. Oh,
damage on your
hold on,
shields
Jason,
first, and then your hull.
Jason.
Yeah.
Have you learned nothing from our jams together?
No.
What?
Jason. Oh, Jason, no.
What didn't I learn?
When you lose HP, you have to like flash or shake the part of the bar that represents your HP. Otherwise, people don't notice that shit.
Right, but the UI is already overwrought, and I was trying to get something playable.
For us,
No.
I don't know what salvage is.
Obviously, I'm gonna do that.
Find out.
mean, clearly.
Okay.
I actually did have that stuff color coded too,
That's good.
but it just got real ugly, and so I'm not sure how I'm gonna handle it.
What
I
does
don't
the
know.
plus
We'll see.
6 on the far left mean?
So that's your hull health, and then the shield is
Oh.
your shields. So you take damage to your shields first, and then you take damage to your hull. After a given run, if you take damage to your hull, it will not be repaired unless you pay for it. So you
Dude,
can recharge
cool.
your shield, but you have to do something about your hull getting damaged, or it'll just stay there.
Bring it into the shop.
Yep, exactly right.
So,
Yes,
so
from the left.
speaking of the
So
UI, one of the things
Yeah.
that it took me a little while to figure out what each of those symbols were, like particularly the gems, because you've monochromed everything, and
Yep.
you've created new icons to represent things that are exactly the same size as the icons. And I think I think you've just made extra assets. I mean, you don't need to fully, have it in full color, but I think like the gear
Jeez.
icon or the gem icon, they should just be the same thing.
Just be the same one.
Yeah, I mean,
you're right.
it doesn't seem to be a reason why you
Mhm.
wouldn't. Like there's no reason for abstraction. Is the motivating.
It's prettier though.
That's like this is some classic Mark feedback where like I should have thought of that and I just didn't. So that's great. Yeah. Oh, it's just like a little gear. It's supposed to be salvage material.
Yeah. The other thing about
the gear is salvage.
Oh, is that your money? The like gear thing?
Well, sort of. So the gear, so salvage and ore are both money. But it depends on what your given contract is, what they're like worth, right? So and upgrades, right? So like upgrades might cost some salvage or some ore or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, so and weirdly, on one of the other Discord channels, we were talking about terms for things, and the reason I suggested slag for a specific thing for lanes, for Final Strike.
Oh yeah.
Specifically because slag was going to be another resource you could collect in this, because that's kind of a mining term for stuff that you skim off the top. But
yeah,
I felt like 2 was probably enough. I mean, honestly, 1's probably enough, but
let me ask you a question here about something that's kind of confusing. I'm like, this is kind of interrupting your flow a little bit. I apologize, but like it says fuel depleted, but
right.
like I kind of feel like that's not the case. Like it's really that I like completed the contract. He got to the end of that level, right? Is that how that works? You just
it literally ends when the fuel's out.
Oh, do you actually have a fuel stat?
It's the one at the very top, just underneath the like the mission reminder.
Oh, that's fuel. Okay. I was just wrong.
Like ticking down every turn.
Oh,
well,
you know what?
All of this is 100% opaque. None of this is explained.
Yeah, that bar, because just the way you've organized each piece of information, it says destroy all asteroids, and it looks like that's the meter of how many asteroids are left.
Right there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was my health. Oh.
Of course it does. Yeah. Of course it does.
You know, I mean, like if I mean, one, I have to say, I mean, you're letting us criticize all these little choices good-naturedly. But I will say,
oh shoot,
very in progress game. Steven, what are you doing?
Well, one of the things I think is so fun about it is the fact that like each level, you have different goals each level, and I really like that about it. And that does put a special emphasis on for the player fully understanding every bit of how the interface interacts with every other bit.
Yeah, for sure.
So more demand than other types of games, which is like, it's fine if it's not easy to learn as long as it's easy to remember.
Sure.
But in this case, you do want to introduce. So you have the turn counter, and like the turn counter could be at the information relating to you, the character, could be at the bottom of the screen, and information related to things in the play field could be at the top of the screen. You've got the real estate for it.
Yeah.
Is there a way to restart?
Yeah, just run into the big asteroids and the mines.
All right, I'll do that then. Oh, what happened?
I tried to hit the escape button to help you out, but that didn't do anything.
Yeah, that's
Of course, it just exited full screen.
It's all good. I'm gonna get perfect.
Like you have the two bars on the screen, and they have they're like contained by like a line that points up or down, so that also implies that it's related to the piece above or below it, which is why we all thought that top bar was related to the mission.
That makes sense. And originally I had that play field, so like the different squares that you can move to, it was only 3 wide and like 5 tall total, because reducing the actual amount of space sort of in some ways made it easier to create interesting scenarios on purpose.
Yeah.
And control for balance, basically. Because right out the gate, if you just hit down 3 times, your stored energy meter is full, and you can just start nuking stuff immediately, and just basically
you
repeat
can't,
that.
because you need a gear to do it.
Well,
which I realized that was my plan, was to use the gear to use that move, but then I forgot I didn't have the gear.
but now you got some, and you're about to get a bunch, so it's going to be really difficult to fail, right? So you end up in these cascades where it's like almost impossible to lose. But
I guess
when I had the playfield that size, I actually had a decent amount of space on the sides where I could put some stuff also. But my concern about putting the UI elements on the top and the bottom is just like literally eye fatigue. Like I don't want to make people like look all over the screen or their phone or whatever to play it.
I will say
But
that there's
that might be
you're taking you're taking a lesson from a shoot 'em up, and you're applying
Mhm.
it to a tactics game.
Right.
I think
Get him, Mark. Get him. Sick him. Sick him.
well, there's no time limit on. You can think about it as long as you want, and then you look at
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
piece of information you need, and then you look at the next piece of information you need, and then you make it like there's no, you're not. There's nothing needs to be noticeable. So like when Lane says when you get hit, it should flash the health bar. That's probably true, but it's actually less of a requirement for this game than it would be for a
Oh
real-time
my
game.
god. Okay, yeah, that's
Right,
actually
because it's not like they actually need the time.
Mm.
Right, because it's
Yeah, no, that's actually a great point.
you just don't have the same concerns. You could lay it out much more, less, because the thing is really when you're playing a video, this is what VR developers have learned, is that you can render everything except for the tiny 30 by 30 pixel area in the center of the screen at its lowest settings, and players will still think it looks great. That's
Right.
for real-time games. That's of course a thing. We just focus on something. Everything else is
Even
peripheral.
hell.
But in
You
this
kill
case,
it with your body.
nothing
That's what I was
here is
thinking,
peripheral.
yeah.
Because
Didn't do it.
it's all just the scorecards.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I thought it was gonna explode too. I wasn't sure.
I thought it was gonna move. Oh, look at you! Perfect plays. You've also got the bomb. The bomb is questionable right now.
It's not gonna do anything.
It won't hurt you. It only hurts you if it hits you.
Oh.
So it does AOE to
Oh.
everything except for you. It
Okay,
really
yeah,
should
so I
damage the
thought
player.
that
It really
the-
should.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that pulse is really threatening in a way that I
it is.
like. It's really cool, but it's actually disappointing that it's not as threatening as that.
Crap.
Yeah. Well,
Would-
it will be. So Steven's actually playing it with the incorrect interpretation, which is that it would
Okay.
damage him if he blew it up, but it doesn't
Right.
at the moment.
Would I be remiss if I had a world fantasy critique, which is that maybe in this world those like little Doppler radiuses like those guys are standing off, maybe they could be squares, to really sell the idea that it's gonna hit those 8 squares around it,
Corner ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I actually.
I don't think you need to have a square pulse. I think what you can do is when it passes through those 8 squares, let them just flicker ever so slightly, to know that they are in the impact zone. Does that make sense?
Do what, Mark? I'm sorry.
So like instead of making the pulse square shaped, you can as the pulse hits the squares around it, have them just very very slightly,
the squares themselves.
Yeah.
Yes.
Gotcha. I considered that. The only reason I didn't do that is because one of the settings is going to be to be able to turn off the playfield squares if you feel like you don't need them.
Oh, sure.
And
well, let me ask you this.
I suppose
like,
that still works though, because I
Well-
could just have the squares turn on for that part of it, right? Like just have the alpha come up and then go away or whatever.
That's true. And this is maybe a separate issue, but I always like to interrogate these things. Why are you making that a feature?
Because I prefer to play it that way.
So then why?
So I assume
so
other
why
people might.
Right, but then you could just make the whole game that way, like and then just design for that.
Well, because I guess to some degree I feel like it's an accessibility thing. Like it just makes it easier to read if the squares are there, probably for some people. So I don't want to just take them out.
But you want to let.
I don't know though.
Yeah, I'm just. This is just me playing the devil's advocate for my.
No.
My. I feel this way about other things. Like, only make settings for things that you really can't make a choice on. I'm sort of against gameplay menus having 50 options.
Sure.
Just as principle, but which is to say, I'm just applying that principle. You could, it's okay to have arbitrary game options. That's not a bad thing. I just tend to avoid them if possible, or at least interrogate the purpose of them.
Yeah, and I mean that really is the reason why they're there, is just because
Yeah.
weirdly it turns out that my idea of a turn-based shmup is really just a puzzle with a shmup skin on it, which I told Lane the other day. I mean, this is a puzzle game, right? This is functionally a puzzle game. So
I mean, you're just describing what it is.
That's what's so beautiful about it, though.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't change that at all. Like,
yeah,
feels very natural.
I think,
I like
what's so cool is that I honestly feel like there's some real elegance here, where honestly you could probably take any. Oh, and Steven's about to lose. I'm sorry, Steven.
No, hold on.
You gotta hit with your body though.
Yep, that's the strat.
Oh, he's so brave. He's so brave, ladies and gentlemen. Oh God.
Well, when his shields are
now,
full is the time to do it.
yeah. Oh, jeez, I can't even watch. But he's got 6 health. He'll be fine. When he's got those things. Those things are
How
way
much damage do the mines
way
do?
strong. You can shoot it. You're fine.
You're fine.
Four, I think.
You're fine, Steven.
Okay. See, when you say 4, it means it will kill me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but you're brave, right?
I mean, there's bravery and then there's suicidal. I'm not that.
I mean, right now the way the game is programmed, you can shoot that mine and it won't hurt you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
right.
I was
Okay.
going after.
That's
I mean,
why y'all were saying
it would be funny if you died,
But
but
here's the thing though. I was gonna figure out a way to give it to you based on a strategy, but the thing is the mines are only going to do 1 point of damage AOE, but 4 if they hit you. So so shooting them is still a viable option as long as you have the health for it.
Yeah.
But they are going to damage you.
that is the least elegant thing I've ever heard.
Well,
Jeez, wow, a mine behaves differently based on like if you shoot it or not. I don't know about that one, dog.
Distance from the mine, sure.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So it's only going to destroy. Wait, distance from the mine.
So the thing that Lane's actually complaining about is that the AOE and the collision damage is different for the playfield objects than it is for the player.
Right. No, I understand that, but I mean, like, so if it only does 1 damage, will it only deal 1 damage to the large meteors too, so the meteors won't get blown up?
That would be the
That's the
right
disparity.
way to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's the
I'm
problem.
okay with that. Like the lasers and the mine don't have to do damage the same way. You know what I mean?
Right.
But the problem I have
so,
with all of this though is communicating any of this to the player, right? So before this afternoon, there was no indication of how much damage any of these asteroids took or how much you'd done to it, which is why I just added that color.
It's so effective. It's really good.
I agree. It's really good. It's not like you just shoot 2 or 3 of them and then you totally get it. Like it's one of those things that it's not. It doesn't hold your hand the way that sometimes you want to, but once you figure it out, you'll never forget it. I think it's really good.
Oh, I'm glad that worked. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
That's good to hear.
It feels diegetic in a good way too. So.
Cool. Okay, so sorry,
I'm really enjoying that he added cam shake before sound. This is very vindicating to me. In my
also, you should know cam shake is part of my boilerplate project. So it's not like I added anything. It's just in there.
Sure, same.
Oh heck, 1, 2.
Now you got it, Doug. You got a million bombs.
Use my
body. Boilerplate project.
I died.
This is like my
you had 6 bombs.
You were so close.
It said I was successful. So it counts. We take those.
Yeah, I mean, but the point is
successfully.
So it was successful, right? Because he actually it was a mining mission, and the mission is to destroy as many asteroids as possible. Right? Yeah, it's over 90%, which he did. The penalty though would be that his rig was destroyed, and he'd have to pay some money to get a new one or go in debt to get a new one. So, yeah.
Ultimately, he blew up in space, so that's a problem for his heirs.
Yeah,
well, I'm trying to make efforts to like really drive home the point that it's literally like a remote rig. So you're not but
I mean, you can have a little cutout at the bottom of the thing that's sort of like a view of you back on the planet or something, controlling thing. And then when you can animate. I'm just imagining a little, like in Star Fox when you get the little window with the shot of the character when they say something. I'm imagining that, but in the background is a verdant landscape, and then you can anytime that you do something cool, the character can react in a fun way.
Yeah, I definitely want portraits. So there's a few pieces of content that aren't in here, namely actual like waves of semi-smart enemies, which I want to add. But those are mostly going to be sort of pirates in quotes. And I do want to have like some kind of puzzle bosses for it as well.
Yeah.
And portrait
need one
pictures
more.
for them, and portrait pictures for the character, which would probably be in the same style as the title screen, right?
Right, right.
3.
But I also don't want to like. I don't know. Part of my design ethos, I guess, is that like I don't. I'm not sure how to say this without it coming out weird, but like I don't like
Shoot.
forcing players to see themselves as a specific character,
Mhm.
which is why I prefer games where you're not actually a person.
Right.
And I feel like having the portrait picture is going to be difficult without. This is
Yeah.
me overthinking stuff, but without having some kind of light character creation at least, so you
not
Right,
overthinking
right.
it.
whatever.
Yeah, so
But-
I don't think.
you forego giving our character here any personality because you don't want. I mean, that's just a choice. I think that's perfectly valid.
Yeah.
You know, if you do want to do a portrait v portrait when the boss battle comes
Can't
up,
get it.
your character can have a helmet on. or
the
something.
plays.
But even that might
Yeah.
be more defined than you want to make the character.
Oh,
Yeah, I
Terrible.
thought about the helmet, but then I was like, but then it would really look like they're a pilot and they're in
Yeah,
the thing.
yeah.
But I also thought about like, they could have like a VR rig thing on and like a hat, and it could be very clear that they're not a pilot or something. That would just obscure their face enough, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen a dark moment where a large number of players overuse the down button in this game?
What do you mean?
because they want the game to end. I mean, that's why I've done it.
Oh, wow!
No, sorry. I mean the level
With
because I
players.
messed up and I want to start over. That's what I mean.
Oh, I see.
Not like,
Yeah, we
the
just need-
game's terrible. That's not what I meant.
Oh,
Yeah, we
man.
just need the
Yeah.
R button to redeploy or something for sure, and you just
There
have to
we go.
like
There we go.
give up whatever current resources you have accumulated or something.
Are you doing anything currently to adjust the spawn rate of things depending on how the player is doing?
No, not at all. The only thing I'm doing is
I will just take
like-
the hit.
forcing it to generate certain types of things, and that's literally it. This
Oh.
afternoon, after I put up the current build, I started working on implementing a sprite read. So like I can put a sprite in and it reads the colors from the pixels and it spawns something based on that. So I can actually draw out distribution sets and then have it randomly choose from sets that I've found are interesting combinations, so that it won't always be the same stuff, but it will always be a solvable puzzle.
Yeah.
And it might result in unique outcomes. Like if it happens to group a couple of mines together, fine. Because you can kind of chain those, and that's kind of fun sometimes.
Oh, it's
But-
super fun.
But literally, sometimes this will generate nothing but mines for like 3 phases. You're just like, what am I supposed to do with this? And like, you can kind of save them, right? And then just wait for the next row with an asteroid, and then blow up one mine, and like the whole screen goes nuts. That's kind of fun too. But like, it needs to be controlled for, and right now it's just not. So this is all pretty random. So
Can
it
you-
is random with some constraints, but very few.
Okay.
What does tractoring do? You can do that. Okay, cool. Yeah, like with regard to the mines, man, being able to like move those around in any fashion is so tempting. I mean,
Wait, I can do it.
Yeah, so that'll be one
No.
of the tactical options is that you can fire a mine yourself. But
ooh,
what it'll do is
yes.
it'll move one square up per turn, right?
Okay,
So
cool.
it can just end up going off the map if you don't use it. But and kind of in my head, the conceit there is that the random mines that you do see on the field are just mines that other people were using, because it's not like you're the only person out there doing mining and stuff, right? And so the idea is that the surveys are literally like mine cleanup missions, like where you're going out there to pick up.
Settings just goes to the main menu. Then I take it.
Say that again, Stephen. I'm sorry.
The settings just goes to the main menu.
Oh yeah, it
Thing.
just reloads the menu. It doesn't.
Oh, okay. Cool.
That's
I was
actually
curious
my
what-
That's cool.
that's my artful my artful implementation of my opinion on settings, as Mark previously stated. Well,
Ooh,
you want settings? Nah.
nah. Yeah, there we go. There we go.
Dale, you were going to say something?
Designer agency over player agency. Question for you. Do you mind if I launch into a bit of a game feel topic here?
No, do it.
But
Okay,
before
fantastic.
that, can I say something? Which is
Wow,
like,
yeah.
I idea about how you make it feel more like you are remote controlling a rig, which is you have like a little bit of a loading screen where you can see your little tower from the planet like connecting to your rig, and it says connecting. And
Yeah,
then
like a
you
little
start,
radio tower or something.
yeah.
Yeah, like
So
the
one
rig
of-
takes
I-
off and then do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do.
A couple of the ideas I had for that were one, and this might solve my UI problem, is if the UI actually looks like a little handheld thing, and like
Uh-huh.
that's how
Ah.
you're controlling the rig.
Yeah.
The other idea was that the fuel gauge, instead of being a fuel gauge, is actually like a wireless connectivity range,
Mm.
and so it runs out, like it just gets too far away, like a drone would do,
Yeah.
or something like that,
Automatically recalls.
Yeah.
and then it
Well,
just recalls. Yeah.
you can also play with that mechanically, right? You can have certain areas, like let's say you get to a certain part of a level, and a whole column depletes your Wi-Fi range or whatever, and so
Dang it.
and then when you leave the column, it resets. There's I can't think of how to make that all balance out, but you can certainly play with it mechanically.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I already have ideas for, being able to extend your playtime by like picking up fuel or spending or having that even be a tactical option where you can like convert things to fuel.
Yeah.
So that could just as easily be converted to like boosting your signal or whatever,
Mhm.
right? To extend the playtime or something.
Pick up an antenna.
Right.
That's the one. One of those big
Right.
whiplash CB antennas.
Mhm.
Hit that. Shoot that. It's the gear.
Do you
What
view
is
this
it?
as
Oh,
being
salvage is the gear.
a
Oh.
game that players would play through like one time, improving as they go, like a la Rogue Legacy, or where people would sort of like start from the beginning multiple times and do runs a la like traditional roguelikes?
I feel like this is more of like a career sort of thing where you like you
Career thing.
persist with the
Yeah.
same character,
Oh, cool.
or the same stuff.
Mhm.
Okay, the game feel thing that I wanted to touch on was I've noticed that there's a way that control is handled, where essentially you will make an input, and then the game will take control from you for about 1 second as it executes your move, and then it will hand back control to you, and then you can input the next move.
Yeah, it's 0.25 seconds.
0.25. Thank you, thank you. It feels like goddamn forever. Oh
Like
my
3
God.
minutes.
Yeah, it feels like forever. And so
I
this
do
is
kind
probably
of agree with
something.
Lane.
But
Yeah.
this is something that you're possibly, by the way that you said that, already on top of. But
Hmm.
there was something that former and good friend of the show Ben Burns told me about, which was a coding pattern that I wasn't familiar with, which is called the command pattern, where essentially it's just an extremely convenient way of handing off control to a queuing mechanism.
Yeah, like coyote time for events.
Precisely. Yeah.
I thought
Okay,
about
so
that.
you've got this. Yeah.
I have
so
no
like,
idea how to do it, but I'll figure it out.
look into the command pattern. It saved me a ton of time trying to figure out how to do this. But basically, like essentially, like during the control, you should be able to queue up like the next control.
Right. So, I agree with you, and I know for a fact that it would feel better because
Ugh.
when I didn't put the delay in,
Oh,
it
man.
felt better. But I also
Yes.
knew because I'm the developer that I needed to wait for certain things to finish before I did stuff. So like, it did feel better for sure. But part of the reason why I may not end up doing that, I say may because I should probably try it regardless just to see how it goes. But I kind of feel like, well, Steven said it is there an undo button? And there isn't. But there is sometimes a grace period where you hit a button and you're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. And it didn't do it because it was within that point. And you're like, oh, thank God.
Well, if you had
But I
an
also
undo button,
understand-
then it would be fine.
Right. Yeah, but
Well,
I'm not going to do that.
You can also
Okay, that's fair.
you've got your 3 moves per turn. You could lay it out like a Tactics Games does and just draw it on the screen and then hit execute.
Right.
And then you draw it. You're like, no, I'm not going to execute. I'll undo and then I'll draw it a different way. Then you know what I mean? I don't know that this game needs that, but it would solve the, oh, I moved once and I didn't and meant to move left when I moved right.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just changing when you commit.
Yeah.
Crap. Oh no, if
Let me take a couple notes. Sorry.
Take the hit.
There's something satisfying about like putting a list, a little plan together, and then seeing the plan follow through. Like,
Yeah.
But I just think that you don't have enough moves per turn for that to be super satisfying. But it could be, you could design the game where eventually you have more moves and the puzzles are harder, and then that becomes even more satisfying to execute it all, because it could also, there's a little bit of risk reward. It's like you don't actually know what's going to happen, you just suss it out. It's not it's not move counter move like chess or anything, but might be fun.
Yeah, I did actually think about that. I've had other projects where I toyed around with that idea. One was like kind of a platformer, but you're controlling a robot, and you're basically telling it, do these 5 things, and see if it solves the level or whatever, right? But yeah, I don't know. Like that actually, this does kind of lend itself to that idea. But I think, I don't know. I guess I felt like I was getting so far from the shmup genre to begin with that I didn't want to push it even further. But honestly, at this point, it's so much not any of the games that it's purporting to be a combination of that I don't know that it would matter if I pushed it further off the cliff, right? Like,
I will say that I was enticed by the game being a turn-based shoot 'em up, and it does not, because it feels more like a puzzle game. I felt like I got the wrong impression. So maybe pitching it differently.
Well,
maybe making it a different game is fine, but
isn't a big part of why you're not.
What would a turn-based shmup look like in your opinion? If you don't mind my asking, this is something I was thinking about myself.
Well, I mean, there'd be enemies shooting at you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
There will be. I mean, that's just that's a content problem, right? That's not necessarily a gameplay thing.
Yeah, I was envisioning like later levels where there were like lasers that you couldn't interact with, but you just had to dodge, and they were part of the like sort of almost part of the terrain, basically.
Yep, that's exactly how they would be handled. I mean, you'd be setting up like, okay, so here's an asteroid. I'm supposed to be doing an astromining mission, and that probably has some good stuff in it. But there's also this pirate coming at me. I know they're going to shoot at me. If I hide behind this asteroid, they'll shoot the asteroid, and I'll get the ore, and their turn will be over. So it's stuff like that. And I really want to, like, it's the one thing I'm really regretting not having in here. Despite all the problems and the flaws with what is in here, is just some waves of enemies, because that is the classic shmup, right? Is the sine wave of guys coming at you and stuff like that. So like,
well, I think the reason it's not a turn-based shoot 'em up is that your bullets don't move 1 square per turn. Do you know what I mean?
That's true.
I started it that way, and it just wasn't fun. It was
right. You have to design the puzzles totally differently, but like. I can imagine that you've got your 3 turns. If they represent units of time, you could fire, and then when you move, you can either stand still or move, and then the bullet will move further down the field. That will be fun if enemies work the same way, because like navigating between enemy bullets is what makes shoot 'em ups fun, right?
Right.
And so doing that bullet time, to use a phrase, where you can would be really satisfying. What's in the game now would just slow down the game, and so I can see why that didn't seem fun.
I disagree with you.
Yeah?
Shoot 'em ups are not fun.
Oh, okay.
So literally, I thought of Dale while I was making this, and I was like, oh, maybe this is like a terrible like bullet hell thing that Dale will actually.
I might actually be able to play this one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Dale, do you want to try it?
No. I mean, I can't.
You don't
I've been playing it for a while now, and
you guys can't see this, but Dale is playing Spelling Bee on her phone right now.
You know what? I'm telling the guy who played Roller Girls while we were playing his game that he was a developer on. So I think
it's Skullgirls, and I do work with the people who make that game, so it's kind of work, Dale.
Wow. Nice. Yeah, good try, Stephen.
I know,
Dale,
worth a shot.
the word is miscellaneous. I can use it in a sentence if you need me to.
Like MISSA.
Well, I don't know how to spell it. I'm not.
MISCELLANEOUS.
Hey, aren't you supposed to be working a contract right now? What are you doing? Get off comms.
Right. Get off comms.
I was just making it into the name of a game about shooting missiles.
Does this explode if I?
Yeah.
Oh, I just died. Well,
ISSLE.
Well, I think we've officially entered silly hour.
Yeah.
So I think we're almost at 9 o'clock. I think we should move on to our final game.
Okay.
okay.
Thanks for the takeaways, guys. Really
Yeah,
appreciate it. Everybody.
bring this one back. I would love to see its next steps. It's
and
really
okay.
those A's so they look like A's.
Cool. Yeah. Fine. Fixing it now.
Dale, you're going to be playing this next one.
Oh, okay. I should go get my controller.
Wrong button.
Nope. They're going to give me a controller.
Yep, you can display from here. Okay, everyone, get ready.
When I was 16,
I'm gonna bounce. But thanks y'all for letting me play it. Appreciate it.
All right, see you, Steven. Thanks for joining us.
where was it?
Thank you for playing, Stephen.
20 years later. Oh. Finally finished.
I am VX Slayer.
Slayers of External Aftermath, Vengeance of the Slayer.
Right. So this is a what they call a boomer shooter these days, which is so silly because these games were made by Gen X. So whatever.
They were.
But
Yeah.
this is I'm working on Dream Settler with Jay Tholen, and this is the other game he's working on. It is a first-person shooter set in the universe of Hypnospace Outlaw, where you play as this character Zane, who's a character from the original game, who tried to make a Nuke Nukem clone, and then lost the code for 20 years, and now he is in the year 2022, and age 37. He finished the game, and so there's a lot of meta, there's a lot of humor, it's a lot of in jokes, but ultimately it's a shooter, so it needs some playtesting. This is the demo that's. This demo is currently part of the Steam Next Fest, so you can get it there if you're interested.
Hey, you know what this was?
What's that?
Wolfenstein 3D.
Yep, that's in that lineage.
Yeah, but I don't understand it being a different.
This is the shotgun that's filled with broken glass, which is such a clever idea
Oh,
for a
can
gun.
you pick up that glass? Nice.
Yeah, you pick up the glass you break, and that's your ammo. And one of the things, I mean, I have nothing but disdain for Duke Nukem, and I don't mind saying that publicly as a property. But one of the things it was famous for was having tons of interactive components, making a game just more than just the core mechanics, having lots of fun things to interact with and building a world, even though it was all heavily pixelated and with very few polygons. And so that's one of the things that this game is trying to emulate. So you can shoot everything in your room. Oh, sorry, there should be a use button if you want to use that elevator button. I don't know what it is on the controller. There you go.
Yeah, I'm used to the 2D games.
Right, you're not used to looking up and down. So the shtick here is that 14-year-old Zane has a secret elevator in his room to go to his cool secret base. It's every
14-year-old's dream.
Yeah, and that's really what this storyline plays out. And what I really admire about the project is that it is essentially like you learn about this character through his fantasies, right?
Disagree. Oh, whoa.
Oh, you're out of bullets. Yep.
You got some shotgun, you got some glass yet. I don't know how to switch weapons on the controller, but
Oh, there we go.
headshot.
Stupid idiot.
Mark, can you tell us about what engine this was made of?
So
This at least looks so authentic.
It looks really authentic, and look at the way the light hits, but it's all Unity. It's
No
basically
way.
yeah, it is. It's a really I've seen some of the tools. It's really cool. It's but it does really feel like Quake or Duke Nukem 3D.
Is this turning speed a function of Dale's controller? Because I feel like this is just unacceptable. It's so bad.
What?
The rate at which Dale is able to turn around.
No, she's being very light on the stick.
Very light on the stick. Okay.
Yeah. It's sentient turds. They throw corn at you. Yeah. I don't know what difficulty you're playing on.
Dale selected the "I am a real gamer" difficulty.
Oh, that's the hardest difficulty, I think. Well, hit pause. See if how the menus play. No, you can't change. Oh, maybe it's in the settings. You can.
Maybe? Yeah.
Nope.
Oh no.
You can quit and start over.
I'm busy.
Okay, fair enough.
Mm-hmm. I believe in you, Dale.
So if you see that texture is a little bit misaligned.
Yeah.
So in these old games, it usually meant there was a secret behind that wall.
Oh.
I'm just revealing to you. You can just walk through it.
Oh.
Look at his face in the bottom of the screen. Like, oh.
Oh. Whoa! Can you break that? Yes.
So this is a squisher, which is essentially the Hypnospace version of Pokemon. That's kind of the Pikachu character.
Yo, is this actually like tied in with the Hypnospace universe at all?
Yeah, it's basically so Zane is a character from Hypnospace, and this game is the game he made.
My pants have a wallet chain.
Yep, because it's 1999 and you're 14 years old, so of course your pants have a wallet chain.
I know that your pants had a wallet chain
It's
when
true.
you were 14 years old because I knew that. But usually with the same wallet chain for all your pants, it's stuck with the wallet and not with the pants.
Right, that's good feedback.
Okay, hold on. Gotta press all the buttons now.
There we go.
All right, I'm going to step out for a second, but I will be right back.
Yeah, Dale, do you know what is the thing in your left hand there? An S sword. Okay. Yeah, I remember having an S sword in the early 90s as well. It was shaped like an S, yeah. Now I'm really curious. It looks like it's made out of glass, but how do you use that? Is that just in your weapon rotation? Interesting.
That's not just a fancy like cheese knife or something, isn't it?
Oh, is it? Oh, okay. I've got no idea.
It's a fancy soup knife. That's why it's an S.
I feel like Dale, you're at disadvantage just because you can only turn around so fast. Do you feel like it takes you a long time to like look around? Oh man. Oh my gosh, it feels like it takes forever. Huh? Oh! Oh, nice. Oh, there's a lot of stuff. Whew.
Got you, mother flipper.
Yes. I mean, it seems to be working rather well. It looks like the way this is set up, it's sort of like how efficiently can you deal with the threats sort of situation. And it looks like you got through pretty well. You only lost 6, but you did lose a ton of your shotgun, and so that seems kind of worrying. Dale, could you explain what just hit you there?
Your grandparents are turds.
Dude, if you had just gotten to this point without getting the shotgun, like how effed would you be? Like, I feel like that's pretty valuable to you right now.
The shotgun.
Yes. I kind of have a question, which is like, I think that you've picked up glass shards, and yet the glass shards have like remained on the ground. That's like my only like legit critique at this point, which is I feel like they should go away.
Yeah, I haven't gotten a good handle on like what glass is ammo pickups and what isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shove that in your turd hole and smoke it.
All these barks from the character are. It's sort of like
Yes.
it's kind of sweet and innocent in a way.
It is. It is. Yes.
That's the thing about the Zane character. He's just this obnoxious teenager, but like,
yes. Oh my god.
but you develop a lot of sympathy for him over the course of the first Hypnospace game. And certainly, you know, if you were a suburban kid like him in 1999,
Yeah.
you either were that person or you knew people like that.
Oh, can you shoot it with your shotgun? Dude, the like hand animations for the pistols are so cool. I like that. a lot.
Yeah. Oh. Well. There you go. My battery backup had an event.
So I know this my estimate. What is this?
Well, it's a sword, and it is an S, like for slayers, because you're a slayer.
Oh, okay. So it's very right.
Yeah, there's this whole mythology that Zane builds around, and it's in Hypnospace. He makes a comic about himself discovering a secret hideout. It's very Last Starfighter / every teenager's fantasy about being a hero. And that is the mythology that you're in within this game that he makes. And so that includes like an organization called the Slayers that he is the leader of, because he's the best one, of course.
Awesome. I'm the best.
And it has a logo, and it has iconography, which is what you write in your notebook, that sort of thing.
Don't worry, my love.
Gotta find a key. Oh, where haven't you been yet?
This is what I did jump over there because I was like, I did not jump accurately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think those platforms are kind of generous, but they're like when I played through this, I was really nervous about hitting them just right, and so I missed them more than I probably should have. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Ooh. Oh yeah.
Oh no!
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think
Oh, that one's quite
Jay's gonna watch this later. So Jay, if you're listening, I would say maybe consider making that last pipe leading to the cache there. Just let you walk straight forward rather than have to do that last jump. That's neither here nor there. Not a necessary change, but like I feel once you've jumped these 3 pipes to get to that top, you don't need another challenge.
Yeah, also, I'd like to know.
That's the perfect half curse to use in a game like this.
Oh, I got it here. I got
Ooh.
3 steps. Bunch of double pistol.
Oh, beautiful. Come on, yes.
I'm almost 35% power, but I still don't seem to have.
Right, there is another area I can
Oh,
use.
there's a
Mm-hmm.
Did you figure out how to open those? No. Okay.
I will say there is a way to open them, but
You must need to get
can't,
some sort
yeah.
of bomb. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, there still is a direction you haven't gone yet.
Yeah, if you turn left here, there you go. Yep.
Left the key to this door in my
Oh, not that far left. Not that far left. You got to go a little bit more to the right.
And actually, I think there was something that was added recently. You hear Zane say, "I left the key to this door in my office."
Whoa! We got to go all the way back up.
Well, that's his room.
No way.
So that actually
That can't be
might
right.
not be a great. You haven't fully gone all the way down that way.
I think that's an extremely confusing thing because that makes me think like I gotta go all the way back up so that I can find the office.
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a good point. Because when I was a kid, I would have called my bedroom my office.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, there we go. No psychos.
Right. The Psycho Syndicate are the bad guys in this game.
Haha.
And they are.
Oh, this
They
is
wear
cool.
trench coats and no shoes for some reason. Because they're the bad guys.
Oh,
do not want to see your mama.
Oh yeah, they've taken it over. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good. This is the demo, so there's like some introductory bits that you don't see in this demo, but I guess you didn't really understand the story.
Okay.
Zane sucks.
Oh, what an insult.
Oh yeah, that's what we need. Watch out, Dale. See if you can like edge him. There we go. Woo.
Dumb idiot.
Nice.
Yeah, there's definitely a visual difference between the glass that's just shattered and then the actual ammo.
Yeah.
My mom says hello.
So BWL is the hypnospace version of LOL. It means bursting with laughter. Yeah, if you go on the hypnospace Discord,
Did I just die?
I think you must have.
Okay.
But now you've got a good idea, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the video of this.
Oh, I just can't watch. Your controls are so jacked up. I can't. This can't be the way this was intended.
What do you mean?
I mean, Dale is able to turn at about like 15 degrees per second. Like it's so slow.
I know there was mouse sensitivity feedback, and I wonder if that was taken into consideration in the controllers. Dale, can you go to the menu and see if there's an option to turn that up? I don't know. You haven't complained about it, but you tend to just take things as they are.
No.
I don't know if Dale has played enough Doom to feel like this is wrong.
I do not.
So we could turn up camera sensitivity and see, because it was set way down low. We'll just turn it right in the middle and see what happens.
Sure.
Let's put horror mode. The Bob on. Stream gore.
I will say that Y looks like a V, which is
It does.
True.
Jason,
True.
Jason was saying earlier, the thing about chunky fonts is that sometimes that happens.
Good news is I'm not using the keyboard. Okay.
Is that better? That's too fast, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right. Let's.
That's okay.
Oh, she's
It's not
whipping
like
now, boys.
Well, I got to look away because I'm going to get a headache.
Yeah, okay. Let's fix it. Fix it.
Well, go to settings and so
Yeah,
it
give
saved.
us a nice 2.
I will say the settings object persisted, so you stayed scrolled all the way down. I would give that as a piece of feedback to like reset it to the top when you get back to it again.
So this is what I want.
No, it's further up. It's camera sensitivity. So you had it at 1 point something. We turned it up to 6. So put it at 3 maybe.
Oh,
That's what
if that, yeah, like somewhere between 2 and 3.
That should just be called turning sensitivity.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that. Yeah, I don't know if there's a standard for that, but adjusting it by 0.1 might be a little bit 2%. Although I don't know, PC gamers,
I don't know.
they want that level of control, I guess.
Yep.
A sword.
How does the camera feel to you, Nadia?
Oh, whatever.
It do, says Bit. It do.
Yeah.
A sword.
Look sensitivity. There we go. Can you S-sword your way through this first part? Get him! Nice.
No. I don't know what that is.
Oh my gosh. Oh, you still have that gun? What?
What?
No way.
Oh
that
yeah,
can't be right.
that's a bug. I forgot about that. So they're doing a speedrun competition with this demo. If you can get through it as faster than anyone else, Jay as Zane is going to put you in the game as a villain. That's a contest that's running right now. But there is one bug that disqualifies you from contention, which is that when you restart the game, most of what we did, I don't know how we restarted it, but we went back to the main menu, I guess. You keep all your guns
for some reason, Jason.
But for a playtest scenario, you'd have these weapons by now anyway, right?
Right.
You mother flipper.
Yeah.
Oh, but you've got more health, dog. You're
Doing all right. My experience with games like this, going back to the original Quake, is that a lot of times you run through it either totally unharmed, or you end up with 5% health by the middle of the level.
Yep.
At least, this is my
Absolutely.
experience. I don't know if this is common, but that's
I
your
think so.
experience.
This level is this part here. Is a little bit weird, and I'll say as a person who has not played a lot of these games, it's a little strange to me that like you're sort of encouraged to really take it easy here and just spend your ammo like conservatively here.
Yeah.
Though I guess if he's pushing people to do like speed runs, then that's not gonna matter nearly as much. But right now, like Dale. Like these people are just no threat at all. They're not like moving at all. So Dale's just trying to like
the AI
safely kill all
hasn't
them.
picked up on her, but she's still within pistol range. I know that for these turd enemies, there's like a spawner, like it's Gauntlet or something.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So I think there's a certain futility to not hunting it out, but I actually don't know if that's true.
That's so. If that's true, then I feel like you have to like show a spawner at some point.
Yeah, I think the
haven't seen
spawner
one.
just looks like a bigger version of it. That's why I'm not totally certain.
Oh, really?
But like
Okay.
on that upper platform, I think is where it is. So like you can take care of them, but it doesn't really solve the problem. You gotta go. You have to charge in eventually.
Okay. Then that's good design. I was just confused about how that worked.
Yeah, I know that like the trench coated psychos, like sometimes they don't seem to react as quickly when you get up close to them. But then again, I don't know how true that is to these styles of games. Like I played Doom a little bit, but I was into Quake. But then that was the only of these types of games I ever had any real experience with. So I don't really know it as a genre the way that a lot of people do. So there's a lot of hallmarks of the genre that are by design a certain way that I feel like I'm not qualified to comment on. But at the same time, it's a game in 2022, so there's just a balance in all things, you know.
You got it. Yeah.
I didn't jump up there.
It's just a behind the waterfall thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so disappointed I couldn't jump up. I couldn't like
Yeah, it is kind of strange. The space under the waterfall looks a lot like you'd imagine the space above the waterfall to be. So that is a little bit strange. Like maybe I would almost put like a grate in front of at the top of it to make it clear that you're not aiming to go there.
Yeah.
I mean, it is marked as a secret, so it's not supposed to be intuitive to find. So,
Now the poo is coming alive. That's messed up.
that is messed up.
what? Well, you know, my look sensitivity or my patience
Oh, no.
You liked the really slow turn, so
Yeah.
you could aim better. Yeah.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Right.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I wonder if there's any sense in doing a thing where, like, you know, it goes like quadratically almost with the scale at which you press, so that like you can do those like fine movements if you just barely press.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure modern games work that way. Although modern games have iron sights, which is usually how they solve that problem.
There you go. Yep.
And you
absolutely.
know, I after Quake, I didn't play shooters for a long time until after Call of Duty introduced that feature that all games have now, and I don't like it. I much prefer to shoot from the hip, but games aren't designed that way anymore.
Oh, is that pop up like an in-game thing?
No, that's just my computer.
Okay.
Dale, did you just accidentally exit the game?
I was moving to not do that.
When I was 16, I designed a computer game in this.
We're gonna watch this again.
It was
Well,
awesome.
Dale is just kind of seized that speed running record right now.
Mm-hmm.
Was it?
That's how good she is right now.
I think what that was, Dale, is that when we focused away from the game, you were moving the stick down or something, and then we went back to it. You were not anymore, but the game thought you were. So that's actually a bit of technical feedback to like make sure to reset the joystick inputs, because you might be losing window focus, right?
Maybe. But also,
Mm-hmm.
I also think it was just we were not in communication as two players.
Yeah.
on one thing.
Yeah, I'm a little worried now that pop-up's going to come up later, which is annoying, but so it goes.
Oh. What is that game that you got on your desk there, by the way, Dale?
What?
What's the game on your desk?
I don't know. Hold on.
I got it now. Is that Diablo? Cataclysm. Okay. Oh, it's got to be Doom, right? Tarius X. Okay.
This is my other poster.
Yeah.
So that's Seepage. That's the sort of emo band that
This is my
the new metal that Zane is really into, and who it's a fake band from Hypnospace with real songs, and that is also the soundtrack to this game. And that's you can see the S sword is similar to the logo for that band.
Oh, I was just saying, I am the world champion of kicking, so I don't know why I spent so much time with the S sword.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, let's switch it over to the S sword. Oh, the other thing was the S sword disappeared. What?
Oh, that's so cool. Come.
Oh, geez.
Oh, dude, the pants with the fire on them. Perfect. Oh, gotta go to the mall.
Specific memories are coming to me.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Dale, you're not gonna take any damage until you go to the burger room. That's my belief. Uh-oh, power shoot time.
What? Okay. There you go. Yeah, I think I need a new battery backup because it keeps telling me that I'm putting too much power through it, which is not a problem unless the power goes out. Just informing me. So it's not really
Mark,
a problem.
we got power
it's
shoot.
Yeah. All right. Well, give me a second there. I'm going to.
I just like that it keeps like.
Oh,
That's the problem is because
I'm just going to close that utility app.
Okay.
So give me a
Nice.
moment here. People can enjoy this menu.
So Mark,
Oh, I certainly am.
Mark is doing this thing where he's not looking at the screen.
Oh yeah, because it's hard for me to watch other people play shooters. I get that nausea.
Yep. Same.
So amazing, entire internet nauseous.
Mm-hmm.
Full of nausea. But don't worry, someday you'll all be able to play my new game. I call it Miscellaneous. It's about missiles.
Well, Dale, impressions so far.
Feels exactly like watching my brother play Wolfenstein 3D.
Yeah.
I like the triple cheeseburgers.
Yes.
I do not like the fact that I thought I was above the thing, but I was underneath the waterfall of sludge.
Uh-huh.
When I was 16, I designed a computer game in this notebook, and it was awesome. But then it got lost.
Yeah.
Or was it?
What was that?
I don't
Ooh.
accurate numbers required.
Right. These games generally are not good at platforming challenges, so they don't include many, but they always include one or two.
Yeah. And what else? That's it. And I liked it better when my settings were lower, and Lane was frustrated by how slowly I was turning.
Okay, so you just enjoyed that Lane was frustrated. That's only part of it.
That's what I'm hearing here. That's what I'm picking up.
Well, go ahead and change it back. I mean, that does give you the option. You don't have to.
I mean, your camera sensitivity could be between 1 and 3. It just felt like it took you like several seconds to turn around.
Mm-hmm. I think that's even lower than you had it originally, but you can see.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, jeez.
I'm also thinking that that was tested with mouse movement.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still changed, so it might not be that the same value is good for mice as it is for controllers.
Mm-hmm. No, it usually it's not.
Yeah.
Oh, I need this. Also, I need to go get that other stuff. Let's go.
I can tell how much fun you're having, just like when you change your voice just there.
What?
When you're like, let's smash that.
I don't think I changed my voice at all.
Oh, okay.
Dale is that into the character. Hey, Dale, there's a window there that you never smash. What's up with that?
Which window? I don't see
It's the one. Yeah, if you rotate for another 15 seconds, you'll be able to see it. There you go. Nice.
Oh, there's things
Whoa, you got a
outside!
playground. Shoot those poops. Dale, you gotta shoot those poops. Come on. Dale!
Hold on, I'm busy messing up my wallpaper.
No, for goodness sake, you gotta shoot those poops.
And remember how to shoot.
Oh my goodness. You'll never get the speedrunning world record this rate. Oh, nice.
Idiot.
I'm for that. I'm so concerned about.
I really appreciate that you can shoot those poops, though. That's so cool. I didn't expect there to be anything worthwhile out there. That's awesome.
Well, I think later in the level you end up in that area.
Oh, do you? Oh,
I
wow.
actually have not gotten that far myself, so I just saw it in one of those speedrun videos. Players are getting like sub 40 seconds to get through the level. Yeah.
Not me.
Yeah.
No, not me either.
I got this pilot with my S silver.
Dale, you wanna shoot that guy? Nice. Oh, you can just one-shot him if you're close enough. Cool.
I definitely have a tendency to want to, when I play shooters, I want to shoot from as far away as possible because that's like a fun challenge. you know.
Mm-hmm.
But it also really encourages me to like camp out and just like, and then it's not as fun, you know. You like the newer Doom games, the latest Doom games, really incentivize like running up to enemies. They have a
Yeah.
lot of like new mechanics to encourage that. And I didn't, when I was reading about that, I was like, oh, this makes a lot of sense because I'm not the only one with that instinct. To you know, to try to pick it off from far away, not necessarily to like, you know, because you don't want to get into a fight, although that's, you know, you don't want to risk getting your health depleted, but because it's like just super fun to sniper somebody. But I think these types of games really encourage you to just run up, and so having a greater damage as you get closer is a good incentive. I'm not sure how this game handles that.
Well, I mean, yeah, you're absolutely like fundamentally they want you to be making like little like maybe even below the level of consciousness risk reward decisions all the time, and like any cone fire weapon, any spread fire weapon does that, where like the closer you are, the more damage you can take, the more damage you can deal.
Right.
Yeah,
And you know, the thing
so,
about the enemy placement in this level, I've noticed, is done where it's what moves you through the level. Like as you approach the next batch of enemies, you are progressing through the level, which is important for like an area that's not linear, to sort of clue you in a little bit. And when you're standing in the corner picking them all off, you don't get those cues, you know.
Yeah, and this is a cool moment because you're basically going for efficiency here, as far as I'm reading it.
Yeah.
Oh no! Yeah. Oh, but Dale, you're still at like double what you were the last time you were here. Nice.
I mean, it is a good sign that, like, you know, each time you've had to go through it, either by dying or that those two mistakes that were my fault, you've improved on your performance, and you don't seem to be getting bored of it. Which is I mean, that's how these games are supposed to play. You are really meant to not get it through the first time, unlike a modern shooter, which is a little bit more likely for you to walk through it first playthrough.
Looks like the psychos busted up our hack blood pipes. And now the poo is coming alive. That's messed up.
What?
Just the voice.
Both ways.
You're not hearing it because you're listening.
No, I don't really see it.
What happens if you drop down? By the way, I don't think we've seen that yet.
That's where you came from. It's like
that's where we came from.
Yeah,
oh,
okay. It's a looping around thing.
Whoa! I went really fast there.
Oh yeah, and you could just like sneakily shoot these guys. Oh, that's great. That's great.
Oh, I was just talking to you.
Well, it's like Assassin's Creed works that way. You assassinate 3 soldiers, and the one left is walking around not wondering where his buddies went.
If you shoot their heads, does it like do any more damage? Do you know?
That's a good question. That's not generally a feature of these older games, but I wouldn't I wouldn't be surprised if that is how it works here. I have no idea.
Yo, what's going on here?
I'm switching out my weapons.
There we go. Yo. Oh, cool.
Oh no!
Oh no!
I do like, Dale, that you have the presence of mind to like save your grenade launcher. Like that's my instinct is when I get a new weapon is to use it immediately. Well, you're playing smart. But now you do have a weapon that does explode things. You were asking if you needed one of those earlier. Right. So it's priority.
Oh.
I haven't seen this room. The stuffed animal.
A Z-Lock. I'm just assuming this means
He said the voice said you need a key to open that door.
there's a thingy out there. Oh, this is my office.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the CEO. Oh, is that a credit card?
It's a green key card.
Stop scanning your key cards in the secret X layer. It appears that I need to go to the bathroom because there's more stuff. Ooh, what's this? Tastes like pee. What's in those? Oh, I was gonna eat that. Okay. It's just like a luggage wheel, isn't it? I see you.
Oh, that's why that's open. Because you do actually come out of it.
Oh, no way.
But now you have a key, so.
Oh, I gotta explode some things. Hold on. Okay. Oh no, there's things in there. Not cool.
Are those just the dudes that got spawned there originally, or is this room continually generating new content?
I think there are like phases.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, secret. In the bathroom.
We should. There's a.
Oh, there's one thing.
Well, I, for one, am reaching a bit of a limitation in my ability to comment on this sort of content, which is, as mentioned, I do get like sort of physically nauseous looking at this kind of game
Yeah,
for too long.
I think that's fair.
Left the key to this door in my office.
Oh, I thought you had that key.
Oh, there's also one over here.
Ah.
Left the key to this door in my office.
Oh. Oh. No, it worked. That one worked.
Are there more?
That's ammo, I think.
And look at how much healthy I am. Okay, well, I was gonna say maybe. What time is it?
It's past 9:30, so if you're ready to call it quits for tonight, we can.
Sure, that is fine.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
We'll have to play through more of this and put together some more notes for Jay.
okay.
But I think I think it's pretty instructive because like I think a lot of people who are like rushing to download this demo are like fans of the genre, you know, of the retro genre. So
Yeah.
It's nice to get just a regular gamer's perspective.
Yeah, not games, normal games.
Yeah, right.
I didn't say I'm awesome. I just said this one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand. This is like a Joker skull thing.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Again, sort of appropriate, the kind of thing someone would draw in a spiral notebook.
That's true. Uh-oh.
Mark, is this something that your coworker is doing like for himself as a side project, or is this something that is like an official license, like Dream Settler project?
So what it is an official spin-off of Hypnospace Outlaw, and it was originally just going to be something that Jay self-published as kind of a in-between working on the previous game and the sequel. But it actually got a pretty good response from the publisher for Dream Settler, and they took it on so they increased the scope a little bit, and it actually is being published.
Cool.
And there's more news about it to come, but it's I think it's bigger in scope than he originally planned. But yeah, the official spin-off. And when we announced Dream Settler, it was part of a little press beat where both these games were announced. So the fun headline was like 2 new Hypnospace games, when really that's not, it's not exactly the, you need to read on to really know what it means. But it was kind of a fun way to promote the sequel, as to say there's a sequel, but also while you're waiting for the sequel, this spin-off is going to come a little sooner.
Can you are you able to tell us anything more about the scope of this game? Like where does it go? Like what does it become as it unfolds?
Well, I mean, I don't know the story. Basically, like you move through different levels that represent things in Zane's life. So, like you go to the Dollar Saver store, which is like like a Dollar Tree kind of thing. And the idea is that these villains have taken over Zane's life, and the imagination he has is limited to like suburban locales. So, he grew up in a trailer park, so you go to a suburban neighborhood where all the rich kids that he hates lives, and you fight enemies there, and it really is meant to, like, all the locations and storyline is really just a deep dive into the psyche of this character, which is it's sort of interesting and meta about it. I don't know much more details beyond that because I've just played a little bit of the demo, and then I've talked to Jay about it, but I'm not working on this project in any capacity. But it's been really fun to watch because I've been sort of seeing as it's been put together, seeing behind the scenes a little bit, and it's enjoyable to watch its development up close because of like how interesting a concept it is, on top of just being a fun boomer shooter,
And one imagines that would you think that almost the entire audience for this game are going to be people who played like Doom and Quake and want more of that particular experience?
I think there's 2 audiences. One is people who are fans of Hypnospace, because Zane is a pretty big presence, as a character in that game. And the subject of memes and fan discussion.
Really?
So this really ties into that fan base.
Awesome.
But at the same time, it also ties in completely separately to the people who are consuming these boomer shooters. And so it has to please both of those groups, or at least satisfy them to some degree. And I mean, it is kind of a tall order, and I don't think that was originally the remit for the game. It wasn't the intent at first, but that's what it's become, and I think it's doing a pretty good job of it.
Awesome.
I would say that your death is a good place to stop. Yeah. Well, Dale, thanks for playing. Do you have any more final thoughts? No. It's a video game. Yeah.
yeah, man, that like how I am almost honestly like wondering like what portion of the audience is going to be people who are not in one of those 2 camps. Like it seems like it is very tailor-made for those 2 exact types of people.
Yeah, I do think it might have some trouble going beyond that, if not for word of mouth, which will probably help it a little bit. But yeah, I think those 2 audiences are where it's aimed. And I suspect that will satisfy both Jay and the publisher.
Absolutely.
But it also, I mean, it has been getting, like the demo, as part of Steam Next Fest, so it's been out for a couple days now, 2 or 3 days. And it's gotten some write-ups, so I think there will be people wandering by the store shelf, the window display to check it out.
Because what this guy's got to be experiencing all the time is things that are going to turn off a like Call of Duty, like people who started playing Call of Duty games in 2020.
Yeah, right.
Like those people are not going to be seeing things and being like, oh yeah, that's so right to the like way games were in 1990. So
I
like
was about to say, like I never played those games, but I watched them all.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
In the original.
But I will say, I was born in the 80s, so like by the time I was a media consuming child, it was pretty much the 90s by then. And so, but at the same time, I have nostalgia for the 80s and even a little bit of the 70s, because nostalgia for those things was happening when I was a teenager. And so I that's why these are called boomer shooters, is because the people who call it that are too young to realize they were made by Gen Xers. Because
and they are the
boomers
most
are just old people
thing in the world.
Yeah. And so I don't necessarily think it's going to be limited to the people, my age and older who actually were in the prime of their gaming lives when this genre was big.
Well, I am going to say that it's called a boomer shooter.
Yeah.
Because most of the time you shoot, but sometimes you slingshot bombs.
Right.
Yes. But it's so cool to hear that there's already a bunch of people involved in in time trials for this game. That's speedrunning it. That is incredibly cool.
Yeah, I think they're trying to leverage, the sort of slightly more attention than they expected, and keep it going. Build a community. There's a Discord that is pretty active, and Zane as a character, Jay Playax as him on Twitter and on Discord. So you get to find out about his life as a 37-year-old, be preparing to release this game he made when he was a kid, and he's still kind of dumb. He's a little bit more mature in the sense of like Jay will have him say things like, "Oh, I used to be really mean, but I'm not that way anymore. I've learned a lot and grown as a person." But then he still uses that same like teenager language. And he's still a bit of adult, but again, the whole thing is just it has a sweet edge to it, which is what makes it sort of interesting compared to other attempts to recapture that kind of like Limp Bizkit 1999 kind of new metal aesthetic in an ironic way. There's like another layer to it that I've always admired, beyond just the wasn't it cool when we were dumb?
I had one sort of aesthetic question for you, Mark. I don't know if you can really touch on this, but one thing I was thinking of is, regardless of whether it's like of what it is an homage to, it is a rare choice. It is a rare choice in games to start in a level that is this ugly. Like it is a sewer. You're shooting poop. Everything is green. Everything is brown. And like. What I wonder is, like, a lot of times, like, I typically love to start players in games as being very weak and sort of pathetic so that they can experience a great deal of strength as they go through a game. But I was wondering, like, does this game do that? Does this game try to take players on that sort of a journey? Or, like, is this an indication of what the aesthetic is of the game as you go forward?
I can't speak to that because, like I said, I've only played the level in the demo.
Sure.
But that kind of ugliness is part of the aesthetic of the game. I suspect I fully expect it to be much more varied, but it's kind of true to, I mean, Duke Nukem was a hideous looking game, like front to back.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But you're totally right. It's that homage, like at a certain point you're still looking at an ugly game. And the gaudy menus and the garish colors. It's all an in character choice, and at a certain point, for me anyway, I have to just be like, it's all on purpose. I have to look past it, but as a player, I could totally see that being something would be like, okay, I get the joke, but I don't want to be looking at it anymore.
Oh, for sure.
I do wonder. I'd be interested that the people who are into this genre, who play these retro shooters, I am curious what they think on that topic. Because I don't feel qualified to have an opinion from that perspective.
I think
good.
Called my room ugly.
Yeah.
And I have 3 pairs of wallet chain pants that says
no! Don't come after me with your escort, Dale, please.
Well, Dale, let me ask you. I mean, you're having fun sort of play acting as Zane. Yeah. But do you and I've been narrating a little bit of it, obviously. Yeah. But like, do you get the impression that like do you understand this character? Like you've been sort of enjoying putting yourself in his shoes.
Okay, who is the director of The Fifth Element?
Luc Besson.
Yeah, it's like if Luc Besson was a crappier American teenager and then he made this.
Oh my God, that's such a good description. I would have never come up with that. But yeah, it's exactly right because Luc Besson is like. I mean, the only thing that's different about him is that he's French. Like, he's definitely all the things he wrote in his spiral notebook. He made real. Like,
yeah, and I love The Fifth Element. Yeah. So I
don't know. Yeah. It's all very like comics inspired. It's so interesting. I'm floored by that analogy. That's
you're
really
welcome.
good.
Every once in a while you get floored by my
Yeah.
All right, so shall I take us out?
Yeah, well, just to say, like, Lane, if you want to give it a try, it is available. It's not, we're not playing any exclusive demo here, and
Good.
we'll put the link in the Discord for folks to check out after the show, and maybe in the YouTube description too. But yeah, I think we're done for the night. We had a good run. We went late, which is fun. But I think a lot of that is we spent a lot of time on that first game because there was just so much to discuss. That was really fun.
So much to discuss.
Yeah.
It is really, really, really interesting to get into, some decisions that aren't just like like I feel like with somebody like Jason, there's like with Bit, there's like 150 things that he knows that he needs to do, and we're helping him organize his backlog and try to like sort things in different orders. But like what is the best return on investment? But like with somebody like Teresa, man, it's so fascinating to be able to talk about like what's working artistically and what's not. Like that's I felt like we talked about that for 90 minutes, and I really wanted to do more, but I'm glad we got everything in.
Yeah, I agree. Like sometimes it's really nice to have the kind of variety that we were able to do tonight to really just get a good sense of like what, and it's also just the scope of what playtesting is and what games can be. It's like it's daunting in a way, right?
We had something very visually minimal and very emotion and experience based, and then you have something that is not ugly, but definitely set in the sewer.
Yeah.
With some poo monsters.
Well, like Jason's game was very like the every piece of visual information is meant to be efficient and work part of as a whole. And then with Teresa's game, it was incidental, if not entirely unimportant to the experience, right? And so not that it isn't important, but that in comparison to its other aspects. And then with Slayers, it's all very much a piece of performance as well as an actual bit of usability. So the three interesting takes on UI.
I want to know how Jason is able to like go so deep on making a background that is that freaking pretty and like not do like the 80-20 like on audio and like on like some other like basic like game feel things. It's just it's very interesting.
Well, I'll tell you, as someone who does like try to touch every part of a project, you just kind of like pick some things and go. And, And so sometimes you just end up not focusing on one part of it, and the longer you don't focus on it, the more you set it aside. But then ultimately, like you'll on a whim go in a different direction and work on a different part. But I will say, Bit was definitely protesting too much when he's like, "Oh yeah, this is all early and dumb." When it very much
it's so pretty, dude.
looks
It's so
polished
good.
and robust. It has a lot going for it, and he was kind of downplaying how much obvious work he put into it.
A very polished turd.
Yeah, I suppose that is what he was saying. But that I think also spoke unfavorably to what was a pretty, pretty elegant design, game design.
Yeah.
How fast Steven got sucked into it was a pretty good piece of evidence for that.
Yes. Although, man, I need to see a version of that game with some difficulty tuning to decide like if it actually has like if it's an idea worth working on more.
Yeah, a lot of times I will playtest games and I'll be like, this isn't that fun, but that's not a problem. You'll eventually tweak the content. Do you know what I mean? I'm like always thinking systemically about those sorts of things. I'm happy to put a lot of faith in a designer to like, as long as they put enough time into it,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's difficult to then judge it on like, is this a concept that can't work, or is it just that it hasn't been the parts haven't been put together yet?
Oh man, okay. If I'm gonna be the like scrum leader here, I'm gonna put up at the top, do some difficulty balancing because, or like maybe get the absolute minimum version of the enemies in, because I sort of think that like what I'm worried about is he's found a concept that seems really cool, but like he is, if this makes sense, he is absolutely nowhere near the like local maximum of like this is such a Lane's brain term, but basically like he hasn't like done much poking around to see like how well the gameplay is going to play once he changes some parameters. That like I'm worried that his like absolute maximum, the like peak that he's near, may not actually be very high. I have no idea, but he like needs to get the gameplay in before he does any more like visual tweaking, because the game is
I agree.
already beautiful. It's
Yeah.
gonna sell itself. He just needs to have good gameplay.
Oh, and what's going to happen ultimately is he's going to have to replace a bunch of that stuff
Yes,
as
true.
he works through it, and so be it. So early polish is useful, but you have to understand that it's also wasteful.
Yes.
I'm still a proponent of it, but as long as you know you're going to be doing it again later,
Well,
you know.
because ultimately, like, I don't know if you agree with this, Mark, but I definitely think that the designer and developer needs to love the game, and if sometimes some of that polish is necessary for you to love your own baby. But the other
Oh
thing
yeah, I
is
agree with that.
also that anybody playtesting is not able to differentiate in their mind like the game as a like platonic design versus a game that has the like polish in it. And so sometimes you need to have like just a little bit of art or a little bit of polish in it just to like sell it just a tiny bit to your audience,
Yeah, I
even
agree
if
with
that's
that.
just playtesters.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes you can have so much polish that you don't realize the gameplay or the design isn't. It's like you kind of want everything at the
True.
same level. You want
Yep.
it's like,
Yep.
oh yeah, there's some of these things are broken and they're all at the same level, so you don't have any one component raising your expectations for everything else. That is like an impossible calculation.
Oh, this is the danger of being somebody like Jason, or frankly even Charles has this,
Hmm.
I think, a little bit, which is like with Charles, the menus are so good. They're so good. Like the game could be terrible and I would still be having fun. So like that's dangerous of having that one like super strong ability that carries everything else.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I think like any project, there's a million ways to do it wrong,
Mhm.
and almost as many ways to do it right. So
Oh yeah. Oh
Okay.
yeah, for sure.
So
Thank
on
you, Dale.
that
yeah.
end,
They-
is it time, with all that advice dispensed, is it time to thank everybody for watching and say goodbye?
Yep, Dale, you're going to have to do one of your patented, world famous, well loved closing lines, and then we will stop the
Watch out,
broadcast.
because I'm changing it up a little bit.
Uh oh.
Which is,
Uh-oh.
and remember, follow the yellow turd road.